Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council. Mayor, Skip Henderson. City Manager, Isaiah Hughley. Glenn Davis, District 2. Bruce Huff, District 3. Toya Tucker, District 4. Charmaine Crabb, District 5. Gary Allen, Mayor Pro Tem and District 6.
Joanne Kogel, District 7.
Walker Garrett, District 8. Judy Thomas, Post 9 at-large counselor.
Tyson Bagley, Post 10, at-large counselor.
Sandra Davis, Clerk of Council.
And City Attorney Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council.
All right, thank you all for joining us. I'll call to order the June 11th regular meeting of the Columbus City Council. And we will begin this meeting with a prayer as we begin all of our meetings. I don't see Pastor Gibson. Marcus Gibson is. Yes, he is. He's hiding in the back. Pastor Gibson, welcome. We appreciate you being here to offer the prayer.
Let us pray. All wise and eternal God, our Father, we come before you with bowed heads and humble hearts, thanking you for another day's journey. Thanking you, God, for all of the many blessings that you poured into our lives. We thank you for allowing us this privilege of being here today. And we come praying, oh God, for our city, our community. We come praying for our civic leaders, oh God, elected leaders, that you might grant them the wisdom that they need in order to make policy that will impact our community in a positive way together. Father, bless us in this time. Bless them in their decision-making, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pastor Gibson, thank you, sir. We appreciate everything you and your church do for the community. Thank you. All right, if you would, please stand and join me in a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Hopefully you've had a chance to review the minutes from June 4th council meeting. If you have, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion or edits? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. And we're required to hold the third and final hearing for the Taxpayer Bill of Rights as close to 9 o'clock as possible. So I'm going to turn this over to the city attorney, and we'll do just that.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. This is the third required Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing under OCGA 48.532.1. What it really means is the taxable value of all the property in Muskogee County is projected to rise this year. And when that happens, we've got to have these hearings. And even though the ad that runs in the paper says tentatively adopted a millage rate, which will require an increase in property tax, that's not necessarily the case. If you have a frozen homestead assessment, your taxes should not be affected, should not change. But we're going to let Ms. Alexander, the finance director, come over, and we'll see if we got any questions around the table or in the audience. Ms. Alexander.
Good morning. As the city attorney mentioned, this is our third and final Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing for the 2024 digest, which impacts our FY25 budget. And as the city attorney mentioned, there are two types of increases that may adjust the tax digest. There are increases due to inflation and increases due to new or improved properties. when we have these increases that impact our digest, that will result in additional revenue for us. More revenue we anticipate we'll collect this year than last year based on these increases. However, there are no increases to the millage rate, which is the tax rate in which you are taxed upon. The rates for Urban Service District 1 remains the same as it was for last year, which is 16.07 mills. For Urban Service District 2, it's 10.09 mills, and for Urban Service District 4, it's 9.19 mills. And again, if you have a homestead exemption, there is no increase regardless of the millage rate. Regardless of the increases in the digest because of the frozen values relative to the homestead. Even for non-homestead properties, if your assessment is the same this year as it was last year, because there's no change in the rate, the taxes that you would be responsible for would be the same. The only difference that you may see as a taxpayer is last year the state offered a one-time homeowner tax relief grant in which they provided relief to homeowners and subsidized, so to speak, the taxes that you were responsible for paying. That was a one-time grant by the state that will not be reflected on your tax bills this year.
Any questions around the table?
Councilor Thomas?
Ms. Alexander, would you just go over very briefly what an urban service district is and how it differs from a council district and where these are and why the amounts are different?
Right. So Urban Service District 1 largely encompasses most of Muskogee County. Actually, 90% of our tax digest lies in Urban Service District 1. And again, those Urban Service District 1 accounts for those general services that you receive, police, fire services, as well as other services such as Metra and Urban Service District 2. There's a reduced level of services provided in Urban Service District 2, which is why the millage rate is a little different. That's based off of the number of paved roads and unpaved roads in Urban Service District 2. Urban Service District 2 is largely comprised of the Midland area, and there's some other parts of Urban Service District 2 out past in the Green Island Hill area. Urban Service District 4 is just some property that is taxable for Muskogee that's on the Fort Benning reservation. Fort Moore reservation, sorry.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, this is a public hearing, Mayor, so let me ask, is there anybody in the audience that wants to come on up? Mr. Broadwater, come on. Give me your name and address, sir.
Yes, sir. Marvin Broadwater, Senior, Columbus, Georgia. Just for clarification, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on something. Taxes going up or not? That's the first question. Because I do remember a night that it was a late night, we took $2 million from indigent care, and the council said that taxes, the millage rate would not increase. We can go back and check the record on that. So I'm just, forgive me for my ignorance with this, but I'm asking as a citizen, are we raising taxes or are we not raising taxes?
We're not raising taxes.
Thanks, that's all I need.
The tax rate is the exact same as it was last year. What the Taxpayer Bill of Rights is a very confusing discussion because there is some increase in the value of property. And if you do not have homestead filed, if that's not your primary residence and have homestead filed, it could go up simply because the value has gone up. The rate at which is being charged has not gone up. Yes, sir.
Anybody else have a question? All right, with that, we'll call the, got one more. Come on up, sir. Give me your name and address.
Welcome, sir.
Brian Jacobson. I live at 5108 Summerbrook Drive. So this increase doesn't affect me, but I think about people that don't have homestead exemption. Personally, I'm against any increase whatsoever because I feel like you need to be better stewards of our tax money. Just want to keep it short and simple, But thank you for listening.
Thank you.
All right, again, the millage rate is staying the same as on the ordinance today for first reading.
You see,
We'll
Manager?
get to that in a little bit. Any other questions?
Do you have a question, sir, about the
just-
taxpayers' bill of rights?
Not a question, but I do want the finance director to step back to the mic because, you know, I did hear that, the last gentleman, and just want to, for the record, we have not had a millage or increase in the digest, I will say. We have not had an increase in the digest in more than 10 years.
No.
Millage rate,
The
I'm sorry. Millage rate in more than 10 years.
That's correct. And the millage rate.
Pardon?
The millage rate. That's
Millage
correct.
rate in more than 10 years.
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to verify that.
In fact, it's gone down on 3 occasions,
Yeah.
I think. For restructuring debt through the debt service, it just dropped a little bit, and then the council rolled some back
Yes.
last year.
Mhm.
So it's actually been reduced.
It has been reduced.
In more than 10 years.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay?
He's got another hand here. Same
Okay.
hand.
Yeah, I've heard, this is Brian Jacobson again.
Yeah.
I've heard before about, you know, that there hasn't been a millage rate increase in 10 years, but is that the only reason why you want to increase it? Because we haven't done it in 10 years, so why not now?
I think we're miscommunicating. There is no increase in the millage rate. The only reason that your taxes might go up is if you own property that has increased in value. And ad valorem taxes, ad valorem means according to value.
Right.
And so there will be a slight increase because the value of your property has increased. But if you have filed homestead, it won't adjust at all, even if the value has gone up.
Right, I understand I'm not affected, but like I said earlier, I think about those that would be affected. We're living in difficult times right now. I mean, last 4 years, everything has gotten increasingly expensive. It's not normal inflation. I think you probably notice that anytime you go to a grocery store, everything's gone up. The amount you make doesn't buy as much, period. So this could impact others. So I just want you to think about your constituents. That's all I ask.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other hands, Mayor. That
Councilor Begley, is this to the? Well,
I mean, I've heard other people say, you know, so the tax revenue is going up, the millage rate is not going up. Understood inflation goes up. City services are affected by inflation. The officers who service, their groceries go up. The people who work for the city, their groceries go up. And so the fuel goes up. And so as a city, our expenses go up each year with inflation. And so if there's not a increase in revenue with inflation, the city will have no way to keep up with the expenses. So I think inflation is just a part of life. And any organization that has expenses has to make sure that they can keep up with those expenses on an annual basis. And so I think by keeping the millage rate flat, but seeing a natural increase due to inflation, I think is a normal part of budgeting.
Jim?
Just a couple questions.
If you would, state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeremy Hilton, 11196 County Line Road. Where does Muskogee County stand in regards to the millage rate for the whole state? Far as, are we up towards the high end, middle, low end?
Jeremy, I'm not sure I know how they rank. I think we're kind of in the.
We're in the middle.
Yeah.
We are in the middle. We're not the highest,
We,
we're not the lowest.
and we have a legislatively imposed millage rate cap for operations. So it cannot, unless the voters approve, it can never go up, for operations more than 9 mills.
Has there ever been any consideration in reducing the millage rate?
Council reduced it last year,
Okay.
for operations.
And then another perspective, for non-homeowners, coming from the rental property business, it's tough out there for people who rent. And we're seeing it a lot. And these increases that are being put on non-homeowners for higher property taxes, well, guess what everybody's having to do? They're having to pass that to the people that rent. And it's tough for them to make rental payments. So, it just results in higher rent for people that rent property around Columbus, Georgia, and they're struggling. And so I wish we would consider, and strongly consider, the higher values that are being put on non-homeowner properties, because it's a challenge for the end user of the people that rent the properties out there, because it's having to pass basically some of that on to them. And so I see it every day, and I would hope that council would really consider that as well.
Yeah, and there are, there's sort of a housing crisis, particularly for individuals looking for quality and affordable housing. And as you pointed out, anytime it's a business increase, anytime that a property owner or a landlord sees their fees go up, their taxes go up, or anything go up, any utility, whatever, it's a business cost that gets passed on to the tenants. And that's where the squeeze really is, I think, at its worst. So there are initiatives underway to try to look for ways to lessen some of that pressure, frankly, on the end user, on the tenants. And that's why council has tried very hard not to make it worse for those individuals by raising taxes. But you're right, there's still an increase for a lot of individuals because the value of that property has increased. So I understand and I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, now I was just referencing that the rental property businesses are the one of the few businesses that are actually exempt from occupation taxes in Muskogee County. So I just wanted to point that out.
They're exempt from occupation taxes.
Yes.
Is what you said.
If you rent if you rent residential property, you're exempt from paying occupation taxes as a residential property owner.
Okay, so a little bit of relief.
A little bit of
relief for the property owners.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Okay. If there are no other hands, we will call that hearing concluded. That's the third and final hearing required by the Georgia statute, Mayor.
Okay. And I'm gonna break. It's not on my agenda, but you notice there's a lot of folks in uniform here today, and I'm gonna call to the podium the heads of the public safety agencies, the chief, the sheriff, and the fire chief. And I don't know if there's anybody here representing the warden or not, but they have if that's the warden, he's been dieting. So he's, but we're going to turn the mic over to public safety and allow them to make a special presentation.
Good morning to everyone. This is truly the day that the Lord has made. We are going to rejoice and be glad in it in this day. We want to come before you, Mayor, Council, City Manager, City Attorney, to just say thank you. We appreciate the support, the long hours, the dedication that you put in for public safety to ensuring that we have the tools that we need to be successful. But this day we wanted to honor one of your colleagues that is sitting amongst you. And we deem her as the queen of public safety, and that is Counselor Judy Thomas. We thank you so much, Counselor Thomas, for all that you do. I remember working with you, sitting in the public safety meetings as far back as with Mayor Jim Worthington. We know that your commitment and your tireless efforts to making sure that we have the tools that we need. You understand firsthand, you were in those meetings, and so we appreciate your years of dedication, your steadfastness, and your ability to relate to us. And even when you can't support something, you know how to let us down easy by giving us a gentle no. And so we appreciate everything about you, but with every queen should have her own crown. Yeah. If you can give that to the counselor that's standing up. Hold up, Jet. Hang on a second, Jet.
An armed guard? That must be some crown.
We're not done yet. With that crown, we want to make it official by us giving you a sash that says Queen of Public Safety. Yeah, Lieutenant, can you go and pick it up for us also? And so I want to just say thank you on behalf of the members, the 400 strong within the Muscogee County Sheriff's Office, and I will turn it over to my colleague, Chief Salescopper.
Thank you, Sheriff. Mayor, Mr. City Manager, members of council, we just want to say thank you on behalf of the men and women of the Columbus Fire and EMS Department. We are so appreciative of the work that you do to recognize public safety, and certainly, Ms. Thomas, the years that you have recognized our organization, the history that you have with our organization, obviously goes back many, many years, and we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you.
Mayor, Council, Ms. Judy, listen, you guys, I've been here a year now and you've supported me beyond measure. You're going to hear from my command staff just a little bit later, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time. But Ms. Judy, we also have you a card, and we also have you an ice cream cake of strawberries. So just so you can have, yes, ma'am.
I would also like to thank your appreciate the mayor also keeping this close to the vest as well.
Well, I want you guys to know you have done something that very few people have ever done, and you have made me speechless. I don't know what the hell to say, but except thank you so much, and thank you for all you do for our community and for the citizens of Columbus. We have a long tradition in the public safety departments in Columbus of taking care of our folks, and you do a great job to make that happen. So thank you so much, and thank you for all of this. This is great. And David, we may have to have a conversation. Thank you, sir.
Well, I can tell you, the Miss Georgia contestants are in town, and it sounds like they can go because the crown's already been awarded. So we'll let the tiara rest on the Queen of Public Safety.
We wanted to know, Mary, if we could just take 30 seconds to get a quick picture.
Absolutely. Yeah. Counselor Cogle?
Before all of our public safety leaves, I want to bring to everyone's attention publicly that Saturday kicks off the police and fire games for the intense rivalry between our fire department, our sheriff's department, and the police departments, and it will be going on all week long at various venues, mostly in District 7, but we would love to see you come out to cheer on those individuals participating. It is always a heated battle, and I know that there is some trash talking that's going on Facebook, and some really intense competition coming up. So if you'd like to come out and see anything from CrossFit to triathlon to bike races to bowling to pickleball to hamburger eating contests, they will be out and about. You can check out the Sports Council is heading that up, so you can check out their Facebook page or their website. But I know that they would really like and appreciate the support next week. That is Saturday through Friday, I believe. But we'd love to see you out.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor, I've been asked, who is that lieutenant, that little short guy? and I don't know who he is, and they asked if he could be introduced. So,
yeah, let him come down and introduce himself. He's that's his dad. He does.
give him the microphone.
Jet Thomas.
Say it one more time.
Jet Thomas.
Lieutenant Jared Thomas.
Yeah, that's right. Lieutenant Jet Thomas. Right.
And who is this armed guard you brought with you?
John Thomas.
Well, he looks like a pretty proud guard to me. So. Good job today.
Thank y'all. Say thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Mr. City Attorney, we'll turn it up. Well, hang on, we've got. Oh, okay. Mr. City Attorney, if you'd hit your light, we'll turn it over to you for your agenda, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. We'll get on through the business agenda. First item up, we've got a request for a motion to delay and substitute a sponsor, I think, on this item.
Councilor Begley.
Right, I'm obviously, next week is my last council meeting, so I want to delay this until we've got a full city council back again, and transfer the sponsor to Councilor Garrett.
Okay, we need a second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. Chris, if you cue that on the screen, we'll let everybody cast their vote. Well, no, we just need to do a voice vote. It was a substitute motion. I'm sorry. So all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that, you're opposed. We've got all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Any opposed? Like sign. Raise your right hand, finger or something.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that vote was unanimously in favor of the motion.
We won't bring that back until July when we have a full complement. Mayor, is that all right? Council Garrett? We'll bring it back on second reading in July. The next item is the operating budget for FY25. Had a lot of discussion last week, but it's ready for a vote.
We need a motion to approve. All right, there's a motion second to approve the operating and capital improvement budget. Any further discussion? All right, you can cue that one, Chris. Council, please register your votes. Okay, and that's approved.
All right, that budget is approved. Did you want to speak now? Okay. Next item is the non-operating funds for FY25, also discussed last week. That's ready for a vote.
Move approval.
Motion and a second to approve non-operating budgets. Any further discussion? All right, please, Chris, post that, and councilors enter your votes. That's approved.
All right, I'll call items 4, 5, 6, and 7 together. This is the annual contribution to the general government pension plan, public safety pension plan, major disability income plan, and death benefit plan. Those are all ready for a vote.
Move approval. Second.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion? All right, Chris, councilors, please vote. Is that everybody? There we go. All right, that's approved.
Okay, those 4 items are approved. Next item is the vote on the garbage fee to $21 and the low-income household offset. It's ready for a vote.
We'll need a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion and second to approve. Any discussion? Chris, councilors, please vote. Okay, that's approved.
All right, next is the building permit, new fees for the building code and inspections department. This is consistent with the new state law. Ready for a vote.
There is a motion and second to approve the new permit fees for building code inspections. Any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, councilors, please enter your vote. There we go. It's approved.
All right, item 10 is the first reading on the millage rates for FY25. This is 3 urban service districts and 3 business improvement districts. The urban service district 1, millage rate 16.07, and the other 2 districts, the millage rates are not changing. It's up for any discussion or any further questions.
Doesn't appear to be.
All right, we'll bring that back next week for a vote at the 9 o'clock meeting. And Mayor, we've got a request for an executive session on litigation, personnel, and real estate acquisition and disposal. That's all we've got listed.
Okay. All right. We'll move to the public agenda. A reminder, the public appearing on the public agenda, you'll receive 5 minutes, and I apologize before anybody gets started if I have to cut you off, because at the end of 5 minutes, I will, to be fair, ask you to step away from the microphone. If you can't complete your comments, you're welcome to come back at the end of the clerk's agenda, and we'll give you 3 more minutes to kind of wrap it up. All right, and when you come forward, just give your name and your address. First is Ms. Simi Barnes regarding a message from her late father, Jerry Pops Barnes, and the appointment of the District 1 counselor. Ms. Barnes.
I got a lot of stuff up here. Got receipts. Okay, Simi Barnes, 3720 Hawaii Way. Go ahead and get started. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Lord Acton was right when he opined that power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But it is so much more than that, because not only does power corrupt, but corrupted people are attracted to positions of power and would do anything to obtain it, and in this case, lie. See, the appointee greatly misrepresented his relationship, if you can call it that, with my dad for his own personal selfish gain, and those in positions of power colluded with him for their own political interests, so the truth did not matter. They did not do their due diligence. Now, mind you, I called and texted the members of the C-Word 6, C-Word means corrupt, to specifically introduce myself, discuss the contents of my letter, and express what my dad's wishes were. But my calls and my texts were ignored. My voice was completely silenced. Their actions were harm implemented by the city through the members of the Columbus Council. Now, y'all, there's a difference between hurt and harm. Hurt is inevitable. It's an unfortunate part of life, right? It hurt me when my dad passed. To be honest, it still hurts. But harm, on the other hand, is avoidable and not inevitable. What makes harm so pernicious is that it's often intentional. I believe that the actions of the C-Word 6 were intentional and were marked by a lack of empathy, indifference, and cruelty that dismissed the feelings of a grieving family and showcased how they really felt about my dad. The 6 counselors used the power of their positions to silence my voice, the voice of my dad's wife of 33 years, and ultimately the voice of my dad, because they failed to consider his wishes with this appointment. Now, y'all, if my calls had been returned, you would have heard my famous phrase, people lie, phone records don't lie, y'all. The phone records don't paint a picture of mentorship, which y'all have been touting, but support everything that my family has been saying. In the year 2023, my dad and the appointee spoke for a total of 4.25 hours. Their last conversation was on April 18th, 2023 at 7:23 p.m., and it lasted a total of 7 minutes. Guys, I've had hair appointments last longer than 4 hours. My dad expressed that he did not trust the appointee. He described him as a bad man and said that he did not have a heart for the people. My dad literally stopped taking his calls. Do you think he would be okay with him taking his seat? So I'm going to introduce a house rule from this day forward. You would cease, and y'all need to look at me, don't be cowards. You would cease invoking my dad's name for your own selfish gains, because by continuing to do so, you are deliberately causing the harm to the very people that he loved the most. The lies and the misinformation stop today. No more talk of who my dad was mentoring or what his wishes were unless it comes specifically from the family. Speaking of misinformation, you all had a little ceremony for my dad, didn't invite us, where you cried fake tears. And there was so much misinformation from my dad. But one that I will address today stated that my dad was in the Vietnam War. Y'all, my dad was not in the Vietnam War. But what it illustrates is how little you knew about him. Also, most of you did not attend the funeral, call his wife of 33 years to offer your condolences, or acknowledge her presence when she was here on May 28th. That right there shows how little you care. Now, my dad, he cared. I imagine if something had happened to one of you, he would have acted in a far different manner because he had integrity and exuded empathy and compassion. These qualities didn't just make him a good leader, but a great one. But he was far more than a great leader. He was a great and awesome dad. He loved his kids, and we loved him. We're the ones that he got up for at 4 o'clock every morning and prayed for. We're the ones that he worried about, and we're the ones that he trusted. He knew our heart and we knew his. So as his kids, we will continue to advocate and strongly correct, okay, anything that is not in alignment with the truth of who he was. Because by advocating and speaking the truth that he can't speak, we are continuing to walk in the legacy in which he lived. You understand? What I want y'all to do is look at that empty seat, and I want you to explain to that empty seat why people who worked with him for years didn't return his daughter's calls or text. Even if you wanted to choose the other guy, cool, but you have enough courtesy to return his by calls and text. Look at that empty chair and explain why. Now you have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes.
Proof.
All right, next is Mr. Claremont Barnes Jr., representing the Barnes family, message from his late father and the appointment of District 1 counselor. Mr. Barnes, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Henderson. Just get my stuff here together. All right. Good morning. My name is Claremont Barnes. My address, 5935 AT&T Road. I live in Springfield, Virginia, work in Washington, D.C. I am the only son of Pops Barnes, Claremont Barnes Jr. I've been referring to myself as Pops Jr. I want everyone here to come away with two things. One is a definition of mentorship, especially for the 6 members who I shall not mention. Second one is I want to go over Merriam-Webster's definition of cronyism. All right, first I want to give some thanks. I want to give thanks to you, Mayor Henderson. Thank you for coming to my dad's public memorial, to his burial. Mr. Begley, also Mr. Huff, thank you, sir, and Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen there, thank you. Also to Revelation Church for hosting my dad's repast, providing food, all of those that also were behind the scenes that helped. WTVM News Leader 9 for providing the truth, which was that my father wanted my sister, who he's mentored, truly mentored, to take his position. Also Mr. Wayne Hales of the Courier, who provided the perfect name, the Sanctimonious 6, which I will be using today. All right, mentorship. The activity of giving a younger or less experienced person help or advice over a period of time, which was not done with the candidate or the person that was appointed to my father's position. All right, next definition, cronyism. It's a situation in which someone important, counselors, gives a job to friends rather to an independent person who has the necessary skills and experience, my sister. I have here, and you can pass out those handouts to the audience. I'll make it available to the media later. But this is, for the visual learners, this is a timeline of some mentorship misinformation. All right, so on 4/18 of last year was when the candidate that was appointed to my father's seat last had a conversation with my father. This is someone that 6 of these counselors said my father was mentoring. The person did not have a conversation with my father on June 10th, which yesterday was my father's birthday, by the way. He didn't have a conversation with him on June 10th, not on Veterans Day. My father was a veteran. Everyone knew he was a proponent of health. He was a proponent of veterans. He restarted the Veterans Day Parade. In addition to that, he was also a big proponent of the aging and the elderly. He did not receive any kind of conversation on Thanksgiving Day, on Christmas Day, New Year's Day, MLK Day, and my father passed April 14th of this year. Now, that cannot be anyone that has been mentored if you have no communication. I have a mentor at home. I meet every Tuesday at 9:30 for 30 minutes with my mentor. We discuss business issues, we discuss personal issues. That is a mentor. For you other 6 up here, the Sanctimonious 6, that is not mentorship if someone has not spoken to you in over a year. And I really want you to hear this. And more importantly, I want the members of District 1 to hear this. and the other districts of the other members that are up here, of the 6. So those let me see here. Mr. Begley is in 10, Mr. Huff is in 3, Mr. Gary Allen is in 6. They voted in favor of my sister, who was the mentor for my father. Okay, I'm going to close it here in just a moment. All right, my father, who many of you know, walked the streets of his entire district. Took him several years. My father began in his late 50s and continued until his late 70s. He was a public servant. The person whom the sanctimonious 6 have nominated and appointed to my father's position does not have the integrity, does not have the backbone, was not a mentee to my father. And I want everyone to know that. And when it comes time to place your votes for these other sanctimonious 6, for other people, for anyone else in your district, please keep these truths in mind. Thank you.
Mr. Barnes. All right, next is Ms. Teresa Elamine, representing Southern Anti-Racism Network regarding construction on 13th Avenue. Ms. Elamine here? I don't see her, so if she does show up before the end of the meeting, if she wishes, she'll get her 3 minutes at the end of the clerk's agenda. All right, next is Mr. Adrian Chester from the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance regarding lack of representation for City Council District 1.
Good morning, everyone. 25,750. 25,750. 25,750. That is the number of citizens that are allocated to City Council District 1 and most of the individual City Council districts, with the exception of the 2 citywide seats. At this present time in the history of Columbus, Georgia, 25,750 people are being silenced from the happenings and also the deliberations that their city councilor would have by being seated here on this city council. The 14th of this month will represent 2 months since 25,750 people have been silenced as our city council tries to figure out how to make this concocted plan work. When there are persons who are ready, able, and available to represent 25,750 people on this very day. As we have had the last public hearing for our budget, those citizens do not have the right or do not have the person to advocate on their behalf for the specific nuances of their community, which are far different from when you go from Boxwood to Searswood, which are far different from when you go from Buena Vista Road to the other roads that make up District 1, which would be the Overlook area and other areas as such. 25,750 people are being intentionally, or some may say unintentionally, disenfranchised by the persons who have been elected to serve and advocate for them by not having their chosen representative seated at the table. And I pray that as we move forward, that we would take into consideration that the issue is larger than we getting the person in whom we want to occupy a particular seat. But we take into mind that we will have to all give an account before our Creator. Me included, you included. But we will have to give an account of how we have intentionally or unintentionally, however you want to fall on the spectrum, disenfranchised at this point almost for 2 months, 25,750 people who reside in City Council District 1. We can act like we don't know what's going on from time to time, become unassuming, but the all-seeing eye, not just the voters, will know the conversations, will know the hearts, will know the motives of what we are doing to the people who work, live, and play in City Council District 1. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chester. All right, and next is Mr. Mark Lawrence, also with the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance, regarding questions about the recent audit.
Mark Lawrence, 15 Richardson Court, Fortson, Georgia. During this election period, one of the mandates of being required to be a candidate or even elected is to be transparent. Transparency is important to government. It's written on the agenda that I wanted to raise a question about the external audit, but it is the internal. I question the waste of $400,000 of taxpayers' money by an audit that was taking place over 6 months ago. And the auditor who stated and made claims that $45.1 million was missing, as stated in your records. As a result, Ms. McGinnis, information that was provided was not accurate. Not assuming that it wasn't accurate, not many conversations has been held that that was a unavailable record to show where this $45.1 million went. But Ms. McGinnis was not reprimanded for the information that was brought to the City Council and heard by all of the citizens that wish to listen for errors of mishandling of monies in the city. Many of citizens have become disenfranchised because of information that's been provided, because they feel like they can't trust the government, therefore we won't listen to the outcome of what they say. But I haven't heard of any grievance that was brought up against Ms. McGinnis or her firm or whoever worked with Ms. McGinnis. I would ask that this City Council would look into further actions against behaviors like this and make sure that CPAs are excluded, not excluded, but hired to take care of future audits for the city. Internal audits take care of a whole lot of issues. They take care of financial issues that will come before not just this council, but for government and the citizens who will receive the services that's available. I ask that we look into the past mishandling. I ask that we look into the past confusion. And I ask that we would look into at least firing the person that give out any mistrusting information and make a person available who would give out information that the city residents will be more equipped in understanding where their money is going and where their past monies have gone. We ask that the city would look at this very closely and consider that whatever happened, Big Brother is watching over you. When I walked into the chambers this morning, I felt very safe. I saw more police officers than I've seen in a long time in one place. I saw more fire aides and help in here that I ever seen in the council chamber. Even saw a young lieutenant, the future of our city, who had his taser and a gun, sunglasses and his Motorola on his body. I wonder, what do our future look like if we don't have transparency? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. All right. All right, we'll move on to the city manager's agenda. Mr. Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and let me just say that to acknowledge the Barnes family and some people in the neighborhood. It was his birthday yesterday, and people in the neighborhood went and put flags at mailbox posts all over his district, and flags to acknowledge, I guess, his birthday. And so I just wanted to mention yesterday was Pop Barnes, former deceased council member Pop Barnes' birthday. I've got a few things on my agenda. I've got T-Splosh projects, Band 2, and we're asking council to authorize us to proceed with executing and funding the pre-construction requirements for Band 2 Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax projects that will be handled locally, not the GDOT projects, but those that will be handled locally, to include right-of-way acquisition, permanent and temporary construction easement, utility relocation.
Move approval. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed. And it passes.
Mayor Pro Tem, I've got Georgia Department of Transportation, Norfolk Southern agreement for 9th Street crossing improvements at Veterans Parkway.
Second. All in favor. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed.
And well,
doesn't matter.
And so to that, just for those here and watching, the railroad no longer uses concrete panels. And so the current recommendation is to use rubber panels with an expected lifespan greater than 15 years. The rubber panels should absorb more on the shock from the heavier trucks hitting the crossing, so we're told. And so Norfolk Southern, GDOT, and the city will share the cost of the repair and upgrades, and that's currently estimated at $80,000 each. I just wanted to share that bit of information. We've got Gateway Foundation agreement. Want to enter an agreement with Gateway Foundation to obtain the proper permits from the Georgia Department of Transportation and have the letters changed accordingly to Fort Moore prior to July 10th, and those would be the letters as you travel 185.
Second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Hold on, Judy. There we go.
This is the gateway on 185, right?
That's correct.
And is this where the new entrance to Fort Moore is being constructed? I know they're in the process of doing that.
This would be, I think we're saying the same thing, but the interchange there.
A little further into Fort Moore, maybe.
No, no, this is the Fort Moore.
No. My question, I know what that is. My question is, I have heard that they are redoing the entrance to Fort Moore, more than just changing those letters.
Yeah.
And my question is that at the same spot?
No, that does not, that's different from this.
This is the bridge. The letters on the bridge, replacing them with. Okay, Council Davis.
It's a follow-up question, but I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote, and then I'll follow it up.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and it passes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. City Manager, I know we've talked about this before, but whether it's DOT, whether it's the Gateway Foundations or the city, we really need to pressure wash the facade.
Yeah.
And all you gotta do is the facade. And I just don't buy into $100,000. That's ludicrous. But we need to get that done. It should come right off the way it is, just like we do our buildings or any other building. And there's gotta be somebody out there that can do that and get it done. And I don't even think you have to use chemicals.
Yeah.
But it really needs to that's just the facade I'm talking about.
And I think we all agree that that needs to be done. You know, you said $100,000. I don't know. I haven't heard that number, but what I have heard is $1 million, you know? And so the number that we got was, it would cost $1 million, and that's crazy. Yes, $1 million. And, but we agree it needs to be done, and we need to figure out how to get it done.
Councilor Hove.
As we move down the road, will this include doing like the front of A.J. McClung, power washing, cleaning that, going into the fall of the year? Is that something to be added? Or?
Well, that's not something.
Not part of this, but
No,
I'm just saying, yeah.
it's not part of this, and it's not something that we've looked at, but certainly we're happy to take a look.
It came up last week, and I think about a month or two ago, and I mentioned it to a couple of people, but they were saying that the stadium, you know, is coming along. We're talking about putting lights and things, but the front entrance on the Victory Drive, 4th Street side.
That needs to be done too. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Because you can, I've seen it. I mean, I see it when I pass by. It needs to be done. And so as we are able to make improvements to A.J. McClung football stadium, that's something that we need to try and work into our list of things that need to get done at A.J. McClung.
Okay.
I mean, we've gotten from the state $900,000 to upgrade the lighting, so that's going to happen. And then we know that 1.6 million has been directed from the tax allocation district funds. And so as we continue to put together our dollars, I mean, we've got a lot of work that we need to get done at A.J. McClung football stadium. And so pressure washing would be one of the things on that list.
Okay. Thank you.
I've got a lease of equipment for city golf courses. They want to.
All right, motion second to approve the lease of the equipment. Any discussion? Chris, you can put it on screen, and councilors, please vote. Item 4. Yeah, we'll just do a voice vote on this one. So all in favor, well, there we go. It's up now if you could enter your vote.
Next, I've got the Georgia Fund 1 Investment Pool Signatory update, and this is due to an employee retiring, so we need to update signatures. We're asking your approval.
Motion second to approve item 5. Any discussion? Hey, Chris, can you pull it up? Councilor, please vote. Okay, that's approved.
Next, I've got donation acceptance for Juneteenth.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve the donations for Juneteenth. Any discussion? Hearing none. Chris, councils, you can vote.
Got a few purchases.
All right, there's a motion to approve item A, B, C, and D. Is there any that anybody would like pulled or discussed? All right, all in favor, please say.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you come back. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
First, I've got used oil and antifreeze recycling services. This is an annual contract with transformational living coaching and consulting services. B would be Amendment 18 for construction manager as general contractor services for the government center. And this is associated with the flood problem that we had at City Hall. You all recall that we had someone working on a plumbing issue and something went bad. And so this is in the amount of $227,489 with Gilbane Building Company in association with Freeman and Associates. And so it's about that flood issue that you are aware of. C is a grapple truck repair for Public Works. It's $33,220.44. D would be tables for outdoor pools for Parks and Recreation. This will be for Shirley Winston, Britt David, and Salmon Road. These are the newly reconstructed outdoor pools. And those are the purchases. We did have some items that were purchased off the lot for Public Works, the prison, and for Parks and Rec. And wanted to make you aware of those. And that concludes the purchases, Mr. Mayor.
All right, hold on. Councilor Crabb?
Thank you. Mr. Hughley, I know that we've been setting cameras out around town in dumping sites. And I was speaking to someone this week, and there continues to be dumping at Rigdon Park. And I know that this is Joanne's district, but they had mentioned it to me, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. You know, there's people playing baseball down there and everything. And then there's something in my district in the Gateway Industrial Park area. And as we were talking, we mentioned that not just cameras, but maybe giving people the opportunity to put something in a dumpster, you know, maybe setting out dumpsters in those areas. We know that people are bringing things there. Maybe they'll put them in dumpsters, but if they don't, we could have the cameras there to catch them, but try to be a little bit proactive and give people larger containers to put bigger items in. I'd like you to consider that. And then also if you could kind of check those two areas out, I'd appreciate it. Thank
Sure.
you.
And let me thank you for bringing up the continuing issue that we have with dumping across the city. And we are going to, I'm going to make sure that we move the portable cameras around so that we can try and catch some of these people. And so, you know, we did catch one guy at Isaac Drive and Matilda Lane, and several. And I personally went to court because I wanted to stand there with the judge because I wanted the maximum fine of $1,000. And so Matilda Lane and Isaac Drive is one of their dumping hotspots. Last week, I witnessed the private contractor that we are paying, the city, to clean up Matilda Lane, Isaac Drive. They cleaned it up and did a really nice job. The very next day, their tires dumped at that very location. And so I'm taking the time because this is an advertisement commercial for whoever's dumping at Matilda Lane and Isaac Drive. I drive through there on a very regular basis because I want to personally catch you so I can go to court again. And we're going to get you. And so, yeah, the tenants may know who's doing it. But I'm glad you brought that subject up because I'm mad about it. You know, all the dumping that's going on. And we need to move the cameras around and we need to catch these people and we need to take them to court. And I said to Ryan Pruitt last week, somebody I was talking to, go and issue the citation. And when you go, because they told me that they've taken them to court for this. And I believe they told me the judge fined them $100 or less, maybe. They did charge him $1,000, but maybe it was Ryan I was talking to, and he's not here. But they charged him $100 in this case, and I told him to go and cite them again, and I want to go to court with them when they go because I want to stand there before the judge. We need the judges to support us with the maximum fine of $1,000 each occurrence. And so, thank you, counsel, for bringing that up, and we will check those locations. And we'll get some cameras.
Counselor Huff?
Yes, Mr. City Manager, number one, as I call him, the mayor of Benning Hills, Sergeant Major Dean, Command Sergeant Major. I told him I would get that right. Retired Command Sergeant Major Dean. He speaks to the streetscapes all the time on Fort Benning Road, and he walks that area on a regular basis. And his concern is not being kept up on a regular basis as far as the spraying of the weeds and the edging and mowing of the grass.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could check into that and see if we can get some consistency there. The Bunker Hill Road resurfacing has been an issue for about 2 or 3 years now. I took the mayor over, I guess, a couple of years ago to take a look at it, and we're still having problems. They just left for the third time or so resurfacing the same road. The neighbors are having an issue with notification of when they're coming and going so that they can go get to work on time, and when they come home, they know to park their car somewhere else. So if you could check that, it's the first Bunker Hill Road off of St. Mary's Road.
Sure.
And check that and see how we're coming with that. And then I'll get with you on the measurements as far as neighborhoods. We have creeks that run in the back of neighborhoods like Holly Hills and different places. And each time we have a storm, if a tree falls out of the creek, it's said to be an act of God and not the responsibility of the city. So a few years ago, we had 2 fences on one side that were damaged. The other side, it fell into a person's home. So they were forced to use their homeowner's insurance. And they said in the past, if nothing else, the city used to keep the creeks clean for them. Now the kudzu and things are growing back up onto their properties, and some of them are a lot older now, so they can't go out and work in the yard like they used to.
Yeah.
So we can look into that.
Yeah, we'll certainly look into that. We are responsible for maintaining the flow of water in those creeks, and typically their easement it belongs to them. If they look at their deed, they'll see it as an easement, but we are responsible for maintaining flow of water. So we should not have dead trees and limbs that's hindering the flow of water.
Okay.
So we'll look into that.
Because we had one in particular that was, there was a creek, and then the tree was outside of the creek, but it was appeared to be on the easement, city property.
Sure.
They came out and took a look at it and agreed that it was our tree. But the issue was the limbs were overhanging in the yard, the tree was dying, and he had a grandson playing in the yard, and a couple of limbs fell, almost hit his grandson. So he was trying to figure out how to get that, if we would get one tree down at least to get out of the way to make it safe for the kids to play.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Counselor Thomas?
Mr. City Manager, we were told last meeting that Director of Engineering Newman is going to be retiring in August, I believe it is. And I'm hoping that we are already starting the process of finding a new director for engineering. This is a very, very important department. Our contractors and builders throughout the city depend on this, and I would like for us to try to have somebody in place when Director Newman retires, so that there won't be a lack of service there. So I would ask you to please get that process started, and let's see if we can't get it done before she leaves. Thank you.
Well, and let me just say, thank you for inquiring about that. That job has been advertised for
It
six.
has been?
For about 6 months now. And we've advertised it twice, and we're about to re-advertise it a third time. In 6 months, we received 0 candidates for that job. And so I authorized staff to advertise it at a higher pay out in the scale. They re-advertised it. We got 0 candidates for the job. And just a few days ago, I authorized them to go out on the scale again and re-advertise it. We hope that we will get a candidate. I believe it started at the 109, no candidates. I authorized them to advertise it at 120,000, 0 candidates. And I believe the other day I authorized them to go up to 130. But either the pay is low or they're not interested in coming to Columbus, Georgia at this time.
Well, and of course, we don't know exactly which one that is, but I would imagine that you're right. The pay is probably one of the major concerns. But we've got to have a director of engineering. We can't go with that position vacant. We just can't do that. For the contractors and the builders in Columbus, they've got to have that support.
It's a challenge for us.
Thank you. Let us know.
And we've got
Let us know if there's something that council needs to do to improve that.
Yeah.
To move that along.
Sure. If there are no other questions, Mayor, I've got one update that's listed. The Columbus Police Department, Chief Mathis is here. I know he mentioned, yeah. So Chief Mathis is going to do a police department briefing. Going to ask him to come up. And I know that he mentioned some of his deputy chiefs may be doing some things. So we'll start with you.
And let me just add before the chief begins, this is in response to council indicating they would like to be updated on a regular basis on public safety. So probably every quarter we'll bring, this one may take a little time because we're going to have to make up the full year, but we'll try to make sure that we're getting an update on what's going on in the different public safety areas for council going forward. Chief?
Mayor, Council, first, I'd just like to say thank you for allowing me to be here. Just a few months ago, the mayor and I was speaking, and he asked me if I would be willing to come to council and give a briefing on where we're at today. I've been here a year now, and I just wanted you to hear kind of where your police department's at 1 year later. And so I got to thinking about it, and I said, you know, why would I give the briefing instead of allowing the people that actually do the work give the briefing? So that's what I'm going to have them do today. Each one of my command staff members are going to come up and give you a briefing of their bureau, and then I'm going to have the 2 assistant chiefs give you a briefing of what they've been doing, and then I will finish it up. But just to kind of to start this off, I would like to recognize out of my office, I get a couple of hundred calls a week of people wanting me to come speak or just wanting to talk to the police chief, and certainly people wanting to tell me how to do my job. So that happens on a daily basis, but I want to recognize the people that actually handle those calls out of my office, because I certainly could not do the job without them. That's Lieutenant Alan Malone, Miss Santiago, and Miss Tyson. They work out of the chief's office, and they field 90% of the calls coming into my office, and I certainly could not do the job without them. And also, before we get started, we have a large group of civilian employees at the police department that handle business daily, that we could not conduct business at the police department without the civilian personnel within the department. So I wanted to recognize them. When I came here a year ago, one of the first things that I done is I read the Jensen and Hughes report. I read a SWOT analysis conducted by the Columbus State University. And both of those reports had similar findings, which were micromanaging, lack of leadership, cronyism, policy issues. Well, you're going to hear today that that you got a sound command staff at the police department. These are employees that are very dedicated to the job, they're dedicated to the department, and they're dedicated to the citizens of Columbus. And I'm very proud of them. Some of the things, when I first came in, I talked to over 200 police officers. And I had former employees and current employees tell me, the chief, the only way you're going to be successful is if you completely get rid of every one of your command staff and start over. They thought it was that bad. Well, what I like to do before I make any rash decisions, besides the fact that the mayor told me not to make any major changes when I got here, I like to assess both processes and people before I make any changes. And so one of the first things I started doing is taking an assessment of the police department. What are the major problems? Well, very quickly you could realize that one of the major problems was the shortage of personnel. And I thought, okay, how do we deal with the shortage of personnel? I have to pay a lot of attention to recruiting. Of course, when I say I have to pay a lot of attention to recruiting, I mean we. So I have to find people to pay attention to the recruiting, and I did that, and you're going to hear from him today. I also noticed that we had a huge morale problem. I also noticed that a lot of the processes didn't run smoothly. And then also a lot of the policies were very old and outdated. But when I got to looking at that, it basically went like this. The shortage caused the morale problems because police officers had to work continuously. And then the morale problem caused officers to leave that contributed to the shortage problem. So we were in a vicious cycle. So I thought, okay, the most important thing that we could do is attack the shortage problem. And then simultaneously changing policy, building morale, because one thing that I know about cops is this, is that cops are like people. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Well, that's a good thing about me. I didn't have to fake it because I truly do care. So I went around the department making the changes to show the police officers that they did have someone that was, at least at the time, there temporarily, that truly cared about them and what we were doing. The next thing I done is I assessed the employees. And of course, a lot of the lower ranking police officers said leadership. Well, in my mind, when I think of leadership, I was thinking the command staff. But after I dove deep into the leadership problem, they were talking about it permeated through the department. Some of them talked about sergeants, lieutenants, captains, and some were talking about some of the command staff that I had. So over the first 3 or 4 months, I assessed the 2 assistant chiefs that I had, and you're going to hear today what they've been doing, and they truly are dedicated to this job. Unfortunately for me, I've never worked in an organization where you had 2 assistant chiefs, so that was new to me. But after I assessed that, we have bureau commanders, and then I had 2 assistant chiefs over 2 bureaus. So I didn't really, and even today, Deputy Chief Kennedy's helping me out. Assistant Chief Kennedy's helping me out tremendously. But the police department didn't have an assistant chief that did assistant chief stuff. An assistant chief job, I've been an assistant chief and I've had assistant chiefs, is to help the chief with the day-to-day operations, both administratively and personnel. Well, at the very beginning, I would go to one assistant chief and they say, oh, that's not this side of the house, that's the other side of the house. So I was kind of running around not knowing who was in charge of what. One is over operations, one over administration, but that's just the bureaus that are over. I didn't really have anybody to help me with the administrative functions of the police department. Believe it or not, every training request out of 400 police officers comes to the chief, they sign. Every extra job duty request comes to the chief to sign. Every eval, and they come monthly if they're new, comes to the police chief to sign. I was so inundated with stuff to sign, I couldn't get out of my office and go talk to the troops and find out what needed to be changed. So you're gonna hear today that I've kind of assessed both the police, the assistant chiefs, and then I assigned them to special duties. So then I could assess the deputy chiefs and have them answer directly to me, so I could assess their abilities, their leadership style, their management style. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 6 months. And you're gonna hear the same thing that I saw. You got some deputy chiefs that are truly dedicated to this job, and you're gonna hear what an amazing job that they're doing. And then we're gonna finish up with the assistant chiefs telling you, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. So, and I look at it like this: what I'm trying to figure out and what I'm trying to assess is, if you've ever read the book Good to Great, it's getting everybody on the same bus, which is sometimes difficult. And then you got to get the bus going in the right direction. That's sometimes difficult. But I take it a little further. You have to get the right people on the right seat on the bus. And sometimes I use the analogy of Tom Brady. You know, he first started off very young as a tight end. Had he continued to always be a tight end, he may not have been as famous as he is today. But somebody saw his talent, and they moved him to where they could best utilize his assets. And that's why he's so successful. And that's kind of what I'm still doing within the police department. So again, we started off with recruitment. That's what I identified. So the very first person I want you to hear from today is Deputy Chief Roderick Graham, that's over recruitment. Roderick Graham, can you come up, please?
Good morning, Mayor, City Council. Today, I'm going to provide a presentation that's going to be giving you an overview of the Bureau of Administrative Services. This is now going into my 7th month in this particular bureau. For the other past, for 16 years, was in the Bureau, was in Office of Professional Standards. But at some point, that change took place.
Chief, can you
which
pull the
was
mic
around
closer? I think they're having trouble
November the 13th of 2023. So as I already pointed out, this is going to be the PowerPoint for the Bureau of Administrative Services. And so the areas of discussion for today is going to consist of the overview of the Bureau of Administrative Services, as well as the recruiting results for 2023 and 2022. Looking at the recruiting results between January the 1st of 2024 and June the 10th of 2024. Then we're going to discuss the hiring of civilians and general employees, which was a task that was later on given to us. And then the future of law enforcement training in the Columbus Police Department. We're also going to look at the use of intelligence-led policing efforts to reduce crime in Columbus. Then also the community relations unit, some of the functions that what they are involved in, as well as the new initiative, which we refer to as the community policing unit. So when I talk about the overview of the Bureau of Administrative Services, this is what you see. You see basically it's 6 sub-units that consist of about 38 individuals. That's both civilians as well as sworn personnel. Those units make up the personnel unit, background and recruiting, training, community relations, community policing, and then as well as the crime analysis unit, which many of you have probably had interactions with as a council person receiving information as it relates to crime analysis. So looking at the results for the 2022 and 2023, 2024, my theme is based on where we were, where we are, and where we're going. That is the overall theme of this presentation. So in 2022 and 2023, the comparison, you can see that we hired in 2022, 42 individuals. However, we lost 68 in that same year. But in comparison to 2023, you can see where we hired 96, but we lost 68 in the same year of 2023. Making the comparison today, looking at 2023 and 2024, what we see now is this year so far, we have hired 53 individuals, and so far have lost 23. However, when you see that, this is a better representation of that breakdown to tell you what those individuals that's leaving, who's actually really leaving. What you see in that first column there, you see that number of individuals that's hired by the month, and then below there, you see the individuals that resign, and those are sworn police officers that resign. So to help you understand this, looking at January of 2024, you can see that we hired 12 individuals in that period, but then 3 resigned. However, the large number of individuals that we are losing is not sworn officers. What we're losing is individuals that cannot make it through the academy for whatever reason. And we refer to it as the pre-academy or academy. So in that same month of January, that was 5 individuals of the 12 that we hired that could not make it through the academy. You go all the way across and look at the first quarter of this year, you can see where we hired 40 individuals. Of those 45 individuals, sworn officers resigned, and 8 of those individuals were individuals that was in some form of training and could not make it through that training. But moving all the way over to the right hand, you can see for so far this year, we've hired 53 individuals, and 9 individuals that are sworn have left, and 12 that's in some form of training, either pre-academy or in the actual academy, of being 12 did not make it through. But right now, we are at we had a net gain of 30, and right now we're tracking 56% of retention for this year. Another way of looking at this information, that is in 2022, we had a net loss of 24 police officers. That means whatever we hired, we were down 24, a net loss. 2023, we had a net gain of 28. 2024, as I mentioned earlier, as of yesterday, we have a net gain of 30. So if we combine those 2 years, 2023 and 2024, we're showing ourselves right now at a net gain of 58. I showed this chart to also express how this takes place on a monthly basis. So let's compare 2 months. Let's look at the month of January 2023 was showing 3, and then look at the January of 2024 showing 12. This shows you actually how we have been recruiting individuals and bringing them into the department. Our highest period of these 2 years was in September 2023, where they actually brought in 23 individuals and sent them off to the academy. And then you see where it's 8, 14, 13, 12, and then again a peak in February of 2024 with 18. Now, one thing I want to bring to your attention is this slope. The reason you see the slope after the 18 is goes to 10, 7, 4, and 7. 4 and 2. That is not because we cannot recruit. That is an actual result of our dynamic efforts of recruiting because we have run out of slots. So every day when we're bringing someone and looking to hire someone, we are actually having to scrounge around and try to find positions to be able to bring them in. And I have another chart here that would help you understand that even better. Phase A, what we refer to as FTO training. We currently have 13 that's in there. Phase A. Phase B, we have 9. These are individuals that are getting ready to head to the street once they finish their FTO training. So hypothetically, the individuals that's in Phase B should be on the street now. They should be on the street in about 5 weeks. Then the group that's in Phase A, they would transition to Phase B, and hopefully 5 weeks later, they'll be on the street. So you see the increase of officers, pretty much we anticipate, you usually see the increase of officers at a minimum of every 10 weeks, you start seeing an increase of more and more officers on the street. We have no one that's in what we refer to as post-academy, but I will explain that. That sometimes can be individuals who are transitioning from another police agency and they're already post-certified, and we don't send them back to the academy. We stick them in post-academy. And that's also the group that's right now that's in the academy that will be graduating this month. And right there, what you see is we have 24 that's currently in the academy. We started off with more than that. However, that goes back into what I was telling you earlier, that sometimes every individual do not make it through the academy. So we start off with about 29, and then it works its way down. So thus far, right now, at about 24. Hopefully those individuals will be able to make it through the academy, and when they come out of the academy, they eventually end up being placed in phase A of FTO, phase B, and the thing about what I talk about is running out of positions. The reason why we're running out of positions is because we have been able to recruit very well. So if you notice, you already see there's 18 individuals is scheduled for the July academy. We've had 18 individuals, or one time 19 now, for like the last month or two, waiting for the July class. And then also you can look on here and see that for the September, we've already started having, we have 4 in there for the September class. So it is a repeated process, but we're doing very well. How we're doing this, looking at our target market. So what we target is former police officers. Those are individuals that for whatever reason, they left the police department. However, we've been able to bring some of those individuals back. Also, we look at individuals that's already Georgia Post certified. This individual may work in LaGrange, may work in Noonan, may work anywhere else, but they're already Post certified. So sometimes we get individuals that's already Post certified somewhere else. We also get individuals because the state of Georgia and many other states, we have agreement with them where if they're Post certified in one particular state, then we can bring them in without having to go through the academy. That saves us money, that saves the city money, and it expedite the process. For example, Mississippi is one where we most recently brought someone in from Mississippi. Another location that we target, we're bringing it with recruiting, is the Columbus State University, as well as other colleges and universities. And then Fort Moore, which is a program that we're very proud of. This particular program is referred to as Career Skill Program. This allows individuals that while they're in the military to be able to undergo police training. Right now, one of the individuals that is in the military, however, he is currently in the academy. Once he finishes military obligations, he then will be hired on as a police officer. So he is one of those individuals taking up a slot. And then we have another individual that's in that same process. Actually, she's here today. I think I've seen her. Could you stand up, raise your hand there? There's an upcoming police officer. Technically, she's in the military. However, they've given her time to train and undergo and observe our policies and procedures and how we go about doing different things. She eventually will be going to the academy in September, and upon completing her military obligations in a couple of months, then she will become a police officer. Our means of recruiting is advanced recruiting software. We have some software that allows us to expedite recruiting from the beginning of the process, the application is received, all the way through to interviewing. That software has been served the recruiting unit very well and expediting and cutting time down. I've spoken to some other individuals from other agencies that recruiting that does not have this software, and we talk about examples where it takes them 3 to 4 months to deal with one applicant, whereas Sergeant Shelling and his group can end up processing that same individual in less than a month. I'm talking from receiving the application to interview point time. Social media such as Facebook and LinkedIn, you've heard the Chief Mathis talk repeatedly about us not being on LinkedIn at the time when he came here. He was right. Once we got on LinkedIn, I have spoken to Sergeant Sheldon again, who is responsible for running that particular unit. He talks about how it expedite and how much information and how many applications they have in the process when we turn it on. Sergeant Sheldon has came to me several times indicating that recruiting is going so well that we have to turn off some of our recruiting devices in order to get caught up, or once again, be running out of positions for police officers. Of course, our official police site is another means of being able to recruit. Word of mouth by other officers. When things are good, officers talk. They talk to each other. They spread the word. They feel that we're on the winning team now. They want to be a part of the winning team, so they spread the word to other individuals that's looking at becoming a Columbus police officer. We're still using the traditional billboards and recruiting pamphlets. I don't really foresee that ever going anywhere because that is a massive way of getting information out, especially when someone walks up. We're at a job fair, and we can always give them a pamphlet to take with them and read it at their own leisure. But all our information is still accessible on our sites and different other locations where people can see what's going on in the recruiting. Again, I've already spoke to you about the military personnel utilizing the Career Skill Program. One thing I just mentioned to Chief Mathis is that we want to expand this overseas with this Career Skill Program, individuals that's coming back. So we want to touch bases with recruiters or their version of career enhancement or career continuation out there on Fort Moore so that they can get the word out to individuals overseas that may be coming here to Columbus. Job fairs, another just a traditional way of doing that. Citizens spread the word about the Columbus Police Department, whether they realize a lot of time they recruit for us because they talk about the fine job that the Columbus Police Department is doing. Once again, some people want to be a part of that. And a lot of people just have a feeling of a duty to serve. And we hear that when we're recruiting, when we're interviewing people, they talk about their duty to serve, and someone has told them about our agency, and they want to be a part of that. City Council, we all thank you. We all thank you for what you've done. You've given us some means of being able to recruit individuals by pay raises, incentive programs that you allow us to have, and the most recently pay study. All those things help us to recruit individuals because that gives us more that we can talk about and go out and attract individuals. So we thank you for that as well. I want to talk to you about this because I think this slide right here really gives you a true indication of what we talk about when I make reference to a lot of positions and staff positions. This is the way to view this. So when we talk about a lot of positions, that's the AP down there, and then the SP is the staff position. So look at that starting in 2022. We was authorized 444 positions. However, we only had 303 staff. That was in 2022. In 23, we were authorized or allotted 416 positions. However, we only had, by the end of the year, 331 staff positions. This is where we see a change, a drastic change has taken place. In this year, 2024, we authorized 372 positions. However, right now, we have for the SP, which is the staff position, 316. That is the official number. However, we have more than 316 because we have 5 individuals, we have 7 individuals that they're not reflected in this number because we have not officially brought them on. They're in the onboarding stage. They have not onboarded. Their hiring is pending. So once their hire date rolls around, then that number will be 370. We will be at 370. So we're waiting to onboard additional individuals to get even closer to the 372. So that's why I make reference when I say we are still recruiting. However, we really don't have positions to address all of the applications and all of the possible potential candidates that wants to be police officer now. Going forward, we would like to move up to 410 as authorized or allocated positions. And we feel with the momentum that we have in the recruiting, we feel that we will meet that 410. And going to 2026, we would like to go up to 422. And we feel that we will be able to achieve that 422 in the year of 2026. So what I'm showing you here is where we were in 22, where we were in 23, where we are today, and where we're moving forward in the future. Continues increasing the staffing in the Columbus Police Department. What did that all tell you? Right now, we're at 97% filled in the Columbus Police Department. We have 3% unfilled positions, and we want to continue in pursuit of bringing on more individuals, reducing this 3% to where we are now 100%, and we feel that we can be able to increase the other staffing. Some of the things that's taking place is because of high morale. Morale has changed drastically in the department. Soliciting other officers' inputs and suggestions. When we listening to people, this feeds into the retention. This feeds into our retention, the chief open door policy, and then hearing the concerns of all police officers or all employees. Moving on to another area, it was a mission that was given to me on Wednesday, April the 24th. The chief of police tasked background and recruiting to increase the staffing in the E911 center. We were having a staffing problem there. Traditionally, background and recruiting did not conduct that recruiting or hiring for them. It was all left up to the particular bureau with support services. However, due to success that Sergeant Sheldon and the other recruiters have had in background and recruiting, he felt or wanted to at least experiment with the ideal and see could we mirror that same effect in the E911 center. So what took place, the timeline to reduce the E911 center vacancies, on April the 24th, the 911 center had 14 positions that needed to be filled. 1 week later, utilizing the same principles and practice that was already established by Sergeant Sheldon in background and recruiting, that moved down, it was reduced to 10 open positions. 1 week later, it was reduced to 5 open positions. On May the 15th, it was reduced to 3. On May the 17th, all positions were filled. However, still have the same problem that you have with police training, and that is because of the way the mechanism which is in place, some individuals started dropping out of the process. They could not meet the requirements and the standards after being hired of becoming a 911 dispatcher. So we started losing them. But as of yesterday, we only have 2 positions. We only have 2 positions available. Looking at this again, it just gives you an idea of what it looks like. Going across, you can see where they started off with the 34 openings, and then all the way going all the way across with now only 2 vacancies. On the 17th, this same principle, this same ideal was placed on us for the whole department. Instead of just for us recruiting for police officers and 911 dispatchers, to do the recruiting for the whole department. That included other civilian positions. And so that's what we've done, and it has been successful as well. The future, policing or law enforcement training. What we've done is went to virtual training. This has helped the department out very well. And one of the reasons is because traditionally we put 8,328 hours into in-service training. That's officers off the street in the classroom. But utilizing this virtual academy training, that has been reduced to 2,778. So what did that mean? That means that we have 5,552 man-hours put back into being able to do patrolling, investigating, and other law enforcement functions. We're going to utilize more hands-on scenario. We're going to start moving towards tabletop exercises for first-line supervisors as well as mid-level managers. Joint training with more military police. And so what I want to show you here is our approach to reducing crime. This will be real brief. There's nothing here that is considered classified information. This is the makeup of Columbus, Georgia. It's 26 beats, 26 areas of responsibility. Each one now of these beats have a designated officer because of as a result of the recruiting in the department. So our strategy to reduce crime is use predictive analysis to identify trending crimes, deploy more police officers in identified hotspots, use information received from citizens to correlate identified hotspots. Just briefly, when I talk about a hotspot, this is what it looks like. You can clearly look up there and see what's red, blue. Those are hotspots. The chart that you see on your left-hand side, that's showing you an area that an officer may have to ride, and even the areas that's not shaded in. But on the right-hand side, you're seeing what has been is the hot spots to concentrate on. Not just for the patrol officer, but for other officers that's in the department. We want to move into expanding the department neighborhood watch program. Right now, we have 67 active communities that we're involved in. Continue investigating citizens' complaints and concerns. Here are some numbers that I just want to briefly show you when we talk about the year 2022 and 2023. You can quickly see some comparisons. You can see in 23 that the numbers started to fall in 2023. I can make any city council make this available for you due to time purposes. I can make this available to you later. Looking at 23 and 24, breaking it down in sector A, B, and C. Again, you can see the comparisons, and you can already see this is year to date. So this is up into the 9th of this month, but you can already see that we are on a downward trend as far as Part 1 crime in comparison to year to date of these areas. Looking at community policing. Okay. Looking at the community policing, this is some of the areas that they are involved in. Still doing the DARE. I mentioned already the neighborhood watch with the 65 communities, the National Night Out, this same Special Olympics, and then engaging in the community, our partnership in education, Forest Road Elementary, Double Churches Elementary, Katy Middle School. The Citizen Law Enforcement Academy, and you already know about the Pastor Academy, and then the SALT program. So this particular community relations involved over 50 different projects and 30 active ones that they're responsible for. The community policing is our new initiative. This is an initiative that we feel proud about, but just to let you know, we're going to be out there in the community. They have a two-pronged approach. One is to actively get engaged and solve crime, reduce crime, answer complaints, but as well involved in the community. So this is the model that we're using, which is the SARA model. We go out here and document it. We're also utilizing the broken window theory. I heard someone, as they talked earlier today, talking about garbage. I think it was the city manager with the dumping and everything. But these individuals that's assigned to this unit is going out with the overall intent of recognizing locations that need police attention, but they don't need 911 type policing attention, and areas that we can help out. So we're going out to these particular areas because individuals are complaining about their trash on the street, cars abandoned, people speeding up and down the road. We're getting involved, they're getting involved in that. But here is just yesterday, We have one of the individuals from code enforcement that we had rode through, located some problems, pointed out, they're out there, and our community police officers out there with them to make sure everything is okay while they're doing what they're doing. But at the same time, while we have a community police and we're reducing crime, okay, but also we're working on improving the quality of life, the daily life for individuals that's out there that say they never see the police, but they do. So we engage in young people as well to build trust. This is part of community policing. They're also in the school. Are there any questions in reference to what I discussed today?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Listen, Robert, his was the longest one, so the rest of them are a lot shorter. He says a lot of stuff to cover because we took such a aggressive approach to recruiting. And with all that he said, basically, I said that we were going to, I said midsummer that we were going to hire 100 police officers in a year, and we did. However, we lost about 25 of those simply because we refused to lower our standards. We refused to lower our standards in the academy and our training standards. So not everybody's cut out to be a Columbus police officer. So we want to make sure we only hire and retain the best, and that's what we're doing. And the people, the bureau that it affected the most is Uniform Patrol. So next I'd like you to hear from Uniform Patrol Commander.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning,
My name is
Chief.
Clyde Denton. I'm the Deputy Chief of Patrol. And I'm going to talk briefly about some contrast about where we were a year ago, where we are now, and where we're trying to go to. You know, and one thing the Chief said is that everybody that they recruit and hire, they will normally come to me first in the Patrol Division. And as you know, the Patrol Division is the backbone of the police department. It is the beginning point of an officer. It's where they get trained. It is where they learn how to be a police officer. It's the person that shows up at your house if you dial 911. You will see a patrol officer first, and they're the face of the police department. Currently, the patrol manpower comprises 55% of the CPD sworn personnel. My current manpower is a total of 205 sworn, and that includes 22 officers right now that are in the FTO training. In contrast, the same period last year, we were hovering around the 175 range, and that, of course, that's a varying number day by day. Now, that is not a total indication of the change in manpower that we have seen from a year ago. We'll talk about some things that'll give you a better picture of that. Of course, when we move people to other units, other specialty units, which is what a lot of officers, you know, when they want to look at what their future is going to be. They come from patrol, so it is a constant flowing of personnel through patrol, and the more officers we have, the more upward mobility we can provide the officers. So I'm gonna give you a contrast of just a typical lineup to what we're experiencing now and what we were experiencing a year ago. A typical or a good night's lineup on the night shift, for example, be looking at 25 to 27 officers, corporals, 6 sergeants, 2 lieutenants, and 1 captain. Conversely, a number that was a number that was causing me to lose sleep at night a year ago, we were looking at some nights with 10 to 12 corporals and officers on the street, 6 sergeants, 3 lieutenants, and 1 captain. So that is a scary number, but we've improved upon that, and we're going to continue to improve upon that. But that just gives you a snapshot of where we have been at times. It was not every night, but we had times when we were at that number. Some changes that we made quickly. We went to a 12-hour shift. We went to the 12-hour shift. That gave us some immediate gains in manpower. It also gave us a schedule that's manageable. It's a schedule that typically you'll see in law enforcement today. It's one of the predominant schedules. And it also gives the officers, they work half a month basically, and it gives them a 3-day weekend, every other weekend off. So that is a benefit to the officer. We feel the majority of our officers have taken to that schedule and really like it. We talked about additional manpower. We brought back people to the CPD. We've hired new people. And with that, we're going to try to beef up some of our specialty units. Traffic, motor squad has now doubled in size from a year ago today. And of course, you're going to hear Deputy Chief Deaton when he comes up. He'll talk about some of his efforts, but the manpower that we've been able to hire has been used to supply people to investigative services. So that's the benefit there also. You know, in the past 2 to 3 years, of some of the times that we went through, I've seen officers and talked to a lot of officers, and they give the analogy, they're going from call to call to call and never stopping. And they were just surviving is the way they described it some days and nights on the street. Now with the increased manpower, we're able to attack crime in the high crime areas. We're able to be proactive. We have the ability now that we put some things in place to better track and be efficient with what our officers do, to be able to track their productivity and try to be efficient in each day's tour of duty. With that, you know, we can increase visibility. A lot of times I hear, and I'm sure you hear also from citizens that, hey, I never see a police officer. Hopefully you're hearing more, less of that and more, I'm seeing police officers. So that is the goal there, to provide better visibility. We want to provide quicker service to citizens with more manpower, which we're getting. We're trying to provide that more to cut down our response times. And hopefully with adding manpower, we're getting into a situation where officers are able to get out and interact with community members, interact with businesses, get out and check on the business, you know, and take the time to be able to spend some time with people that we have not had in the past. And a big thing is, with adding more manpower, it takes the stress off some of our officers. We heard a lot of officers talking about they're just getting burnt out. I've talked to officers lately that, yes, they are still busy, but they're feeling a little bit less heat because there are more officers on the street to spread the workload evenly. Just to give you an example of a self-initiated number, and this is the number from May 2023, May 2024. And I talk about self-initiated calls, I'm talking about stuff like neighborhood checks, business checks, traffic stops, checking on a suspicious individual. May 2023, there was 2,549. May 2024, 5,025. That's almost double. So that's showing that our officers, by increased manpower, increased efficiency, are able to get out and spend more time in the community to do things that the goal is to reduce crime. Some of the future plans we have for CPD and Patrol Division, we're going to continue to add manpower. We're going to continue to add manpower to our Traffic Division. We're going to go back and develop some of what we had in the past of what we term a swing shift, to try to alleviate some of the call back up at shift change, which that's a constant thing that I've seen through my whole career. There's been issues that's had to be addressed. We're going to continue to use technology. Deputy Chief Deaton will probably talk briefly about the Real-Time Crime Center. Patrol is using that a lot to help with investigations, to help know what's on a scene that they're going to. We're going to continue to use drone technology. One thing that drone technology is used a lot for now is our Traffic Division. They use that in traffic crash investigation and mapping. I've spoke to you before about the Electronic School Zone Enforcement Program. Of course, that's something we're going to be delving into in August of this year. Again, with the focus to provide safe school zones for the children. And in conclusion, I want to say this. The mood now in patrol is overall positive. I believe, especially in contrast to last year and prior to that, we have a positive mindset now. Officers are enthused. I think a good thing now is they see that they have the ability to move forward, to do other things in the police department, and not just be stuck in one position. So that has contributed to a good manpower, a good enthusiasm in our manpower in the police department. And one thing we're striving to do, be more transparent with our officers, establish good communication with them, either, you know, with our command staff and with the officers on the street. But I will say and reiterate, again, I think the outlook for CPD, especially Patrol Division, is looking bright. And again, I'll reiterate that I appreciate, the officers appreciate the support from the City Council, the Mayor, Mr. City Manager. We appreciate all that, and that's made a big difference in the morale of our officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Listen, that's one of the most difficult positions in the whole police department. I speak to him just about daily in the evening between 5 and midnight. So he's a very difficult job, very busy. The next person I'd like to hear from is the next group of people that the influx of personnel has benefited, and that's Chief Lance Deaton.
good morning or afternoon maybe. Mr. Mayor, City Council, City Manager, City Attorney, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I will be brief as well. We talk a lot about manpower. You've heard about manpower this morning already. The way manpower, this increase of manpower has affected the Bureau of Investigative Services looks like this. In May of 2023, which is shortly after I was transferred to the Bureau of Investigative Services, we had 61 sworn detectives or personnel, 10 civilian personnel in the Bureau, for a total of 71 people in the Bureau of Investigative Services. May of 2024, 1 year later, that number has risen to 82 sworn officers, 16 civilian officers, for a total of 98 officers and a 27 person increase in the Bureau. We have a projected growth by the end of this year, and some of my colleagues and the chief too probably would say this might be a lofty goal, but I do believe we can reach it. We hope to reach 120 by January of 2025. That would put us in a position where we can do things, all the things that need to be done from an investigative services standpoint. Let me talk briefly about the civilians. You as a council approved last year in the budget several civilian positions that we had never had before. Analyst positions, civilian positions in the Real-Time Crime Center, civilian positions in CSID. Those are all positions we've never had before. In CSI, we've always had sworn officers there. So we started looking at, and my predecessor, Deputy Chief Hastings, put all of this in motion, trying to figure out how do we address this manpower issue. And one of those ways was to add civilian positions to do things that sworn officers had done in the past. Those have all since been hired. That has been implemented and has been a tremendous success. I'll talk in a few minutes about the Real-Time Crime Center, and that is mostly manned by civilian personnel, which has, again, turned out to be a tremendous asset for the department and an area that is the future of policing. The increase in manpower has done two main things, and I think you'll find these numbers pretty staggering. The first quarter of 2023, the Bureau of Investigative Services investigated 248 cases. In the first quarter of 2024, the Bureau of Investigative Services investigated 439. That's a 77% increase in the number of cases investigated by the Bureau. That's incredible. With an additional 27 people, we've been able to increase the number of cases that we're working by 77%. Now, let me be clear, because I don't want anybody to misunderstand this. That doesn't mean crime went up 77%. That means those are cases that we worked, additional cases that the Investigative Services Bureau worked this year versus in the first quarter versus last year. With shortages came the requirement that we had to start looking at cases and prioritizing cases. Now that we have some increased manpower, we've been able to take back on some of those cases that maybe we wouldn't have been able to work prior, and that's what's leading to the 77% increase. With that also comes, and one of the stats we look at in our Bureau a lot is the clearance rate. How many cases are they clearing? Not just what they're getting, but what are they clearing? What are they closing? First quarter 2023, they closed or cleared 35% of their cases. First quarter of 2024, 89% closure rate and clearance rate. That's an increase of 54% in the cases cleared. Again, that is a huge testament to the increased manpower and the increased morale and some of the leadership that has been added over the course of time. One of the other big issues that you guys, as a council and as city leaders, played a huge part in was the development of the Real-Time Crime Center. There's been a $1.5 million grant issued from the state, a technology grant issued by the state to the police department, and we were one of the largest recipients of that grant across the state. Those of you who have not been down to the Real-Time Crime Center yet, I would encourage you all to please come down and take a look at it. It's impressive. I have not had one person walk in there and go, it's every time they walk in, they look at it and go, holy cow, this thing is amazing. What we're being able to do with this technology as it continues to grow is staggering. And it is absolutely the future of policing. And it's not just cameras, it's evaluating data, it's analyzing data. We're using it in a real-time manner, but we're also being able to use it in an investigatory manner. And that is absolutely critical as we move forward. We've been able to add software to this system. We've just added a system called Fusus, which allows us to pull all of our digital assets, cameras and LPRs, and our CAD information coming out of the 911 center all in one place, so we can evaluate that in real time. We've been able to add additional camera resources. Some of those cameras have been funded by the city, and there's been a significant increase in those, and those are absolutely important and helping with the reduction in crime in the city. The added manpower I talked about earlier, adding the 4 civilian analysts in the Real-Time Crime Center. We have 2 sergeants that manage it and a lieutenant that runs it. The work they do, I couldn't do it. As a matter of fact, I couldn't even tell you all the technical parts of what they do. It's highly skilled, highly technical, but it is absolutely having a huge effect on not only what we're doing in investigative services, but also patrol, as Deputy Chief Dent mentioned earlier. We do hope to continue to grow that. We soon plan to increase manpower to allow what we hope to be 24/7 coverage in that center. While we were sitting here, I actually got an email from the 2 sergeants in the Real-Time Crime Center with a proposal to take our initial step to increase the amount of coverage down there, which would move us not 24/7, but it will increase our coverage through the majority of the day and night shifts. So we'll continue to move in that direction and continue to grow there as well. One of the other areas that had been absolutely diminished in our manpower shortages was our Special Operations Unit. That unit is comprised of the narcotics unit, the tax squad, K9, and the gang unit. That unit is now back up and running. Assistant Chief Kennedy spent a lot of time in the early parts of this year working on that unit, getting that unit back up and running, and has since been turned over to the Bureau of Investigative Services as it continues to grow. There's been an increase in manpower since last May from 7 to 19. That increase in manpower has been significant in what we've been able to do at a street level and from an investigatory level. I spoke to the Budget Committee about this particular unit a few weeks ago and talked about the importance of this unit and what it does for this city. And so we certainly do appreciate the support there. This unit has, as it has grown in numbers, it has increased its training and also its ability to work with other agencies and partners. So it's not uncommon for us to partner with the Sheriff's Office. It's not uncommon for us to partner with several of the federal agencies in town to try to address issues and crime issues in the city. They continue to be an integral part of what we're doing in investigative services. In every measurable statistical category in special operations that we calculate on a monthly basis, we have seen anywhere from a 50 to 75% increase in productivity. And again, I think that is a testament to manpower. It's a testament to having the right people in the right places. And that kind of leads me to this. The men and women of the Bureau of Investigative Services have been absolutely outstanding. The chief brings a different perspective. Those of us who have been here our whole careers look at our people and go, you know what? They work hard, they do a good job. But when somebody that's not from here and hasn't been around those people for a long period of time comes in and looks at the work they're doing and says, y'all got some of the hardest working people I've ever worked with, I've ever seen. I think that sends a strong message because he brings a different perspective to the table than most of us. And he actually says that all the time. He brings that when he goes to the briefings, when we have our staff meetings, he has that, or he brings that to the table regularly, and I could not agree more. Over the last 12 months, we've seen a significant increase in morale within investigations. I talked about how dedicated these investigators and these employees are. They had a tough road for the last several years, and it was mostly manpower driven. When manpower decreases, the amount of cases you're working goes up, the amount of on-call status that you're on goes up, and it becomes very, very difficult for not only the officers but their families. Because of the increase in personnel, we have seen morale go up, and as the chief talked about in his opening statement, it's kind of that hamster wheel effect. With more people comes better morale. With better morale comes more people. And so we continue to grow instead of going the other way. And I do think that we are seeing that in investigative services right now. I think the high level of morale and dedication that you see can be attributed to several things right now. Again, I talked about the number of people, increasing manpower. But I think the chief mentioned something earlier that's important. It's making sure that we got the right people in the right places. Sometimes we bring people into units, or we bring people to certain bureaus because they think they want to be there, but we don't do a good job of vetting it and making sure that they're the right fit for their skill set, and that everybody, we got the right people in the right places. We've been able to take some time and do that. We've been able to move some people around, put some people in different places, and I think that's had a major effect on the morale and the productivity on the third floor and in the Bureau of Investigative Services. I also, and of course Deputy Chief Dent will say jokingly, but not so jokingly, that that we have strong supervisors and leadership on the third floor that we ultimately have pulled from patrol over the course of time. And he gives me a lot of crap about that, oftentimes when, it's like, well, I'm going to be looking for the best people always. So, and I do think that having good, strong leadership in those places has had a major effect on what we've tried to do to change the morale and the culture in investigative services. And the last thing is this. I think when I talk about the chief talks about our command staff, and I talk about my colleagues on the staff, I think it's important to recognize that one of the biggest things we've seen over the last 12 months is the flow of communication and how that flow of communication works. We're able to work amongst ourselves to get things done. The flow of information doesn't get bogged down. We're able to discuss things. We're able to address issues, and in most circumstances, the deputy chiefs at the deputy chief level, we can handle most of the issues that come up without having to drag in the assistant chiefs and the chiefs. And oftentimes that just saves time. It makes us more efficient, and I think the flow of information, within the Bureau, but also between the bureaus has been another important factor in how we've made some positive change, not only in investigative services, but also in the department. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chief. Listen, I know this is going long. We're almost finished, but if you listen, you heard him say at the end, the best thing the Chief's done is get out of our way and let us do our job. So, and that's fact. The best thing I've done is just got out of the way and let them do their job. Chief Hastings, come on up here, please. Chief Hastings, when I got here, I made a move, and I moved him, so he's been mad at me. But let me tell you something publicly I'd like to say, that he is in a position right now. I've been in this business for over 30 years, and with all the people that I've known in my career, and even the people within this organization, I would not pick anybody over him for the position that he holds right now, because it is not necessarily a law enforcement role, but he handles it well. And I can't think of anybody else I'd rather have in this position, so I appreciate you.
Thanks, sir. Again, my name is Ronnie Hastings. I'm Deputy Chief of Support Services at the Columbus Police Department. The Bureau of Support Services is exactly that. It's not an enforcement arm of the department. It is exactly, it's what the name implies, is to support other bureaus of the department. So there's 116 employees in that bureau. Only 12 of those are sworn officers. The other 104 are civilians. So that gives you some perspective right there. There's 3 major divisions in the Bureau of Support Services. The first one is the Records and Death Services Division. There's only 21 people in that division. This is staffed by almost all civilian and some sworn. Mostly the sworn are at when you come into the front lobby of the police department, they are at that front desk area up there, that glass window, or out at the front lobby desk, the greeting desk out there. And it's because we do have people come in that create disturbances. We do have people who come in wanting to turn themselves in because they have an arrest warrant outstanding for them. So we've still got to have a sworn presence in that area. We've been doing some things, and really some of these things were long before my time, but I think about the way it was when I walked in the door in 1986. Everything we did was paper-based. We have streamlined that. Those efforts began years ago. For example, the first real development I can think of was the advent of the GEAR system, the Georgia Electronic Accident Reporting System. Prior to that, we were doing paper accident reports. Now we're doing that all online. It's digital. Copies can be made, but that's not the standard. But that took that completely out of the workload of the records division. Incident reports, we're using the RMS system, and Motorola RMS system. Started that in February 2016. As you know, we're currently developing a new RMS system with Tyler Technologies. Arrest reports, same thing. Traffic citations, we're using a program of Tyler Technologies called Brazos. Every one of those were very paper heavy, very laborious. They created a fire trap within the records room. And how many times we heard about public records being destroyed in fires and throughout human history. We developed another system that we developed that's a web-based system, is the permit system. So permits that people might have applied for amplified sound, festivals, parades, demonstrations, and those sorts of things, that was a paper-based system. Now it's centralized. It's all online. The most that we get involved in that at the front entrance to the police department is by an officer simply guiding that person to a computer there at the front, getting them started, and from that point forward, the citizen normally takes it from there. Has streamlined that for the chief and the citizen as well. We're developing a web-based system for ABC card applications right now. That's under development with IT, of course. They're the main spearhead of that. The next division in support services is the Property and Evidence Division. It's got 5 subunits. The Quartermaster Unit. The Quartermaster Unit, one thing I'm going to mention about that I think is important to note, that this is the first time, just like Deputy Chief Deaton just spoke about, this is the first time in my career where we've had a civilian who is now serving as the quartermaster of the police department. We've never had that. It's always been a sworn police officer, and she does a fantastic job. She was a great hire. They provide equipment. She provides equipment, supplies officers, and accounts for everything with a digital inventory system that we acquired a couple of years back. We have maximized our storage space in several different ways by simply cleaning house, discarding, surplusing items to the CCG warehouse, transferring property to other city departments. For example, animal control needed body video cameras. They didn't have that. Well, we had some of our the prior generation of cameras, we were able to provide that to them. So that was of value to them, and it got them out of our way and kept that property still in use. The budget officer, the former finance officer, Cindy Ware, she was a real big spearheader of the uniform contract that we have now. And what was really good about that was she negotiated the contract that provided for the vendor to store all those uniforms on their facility rather than in our facility. So that really freed up a lot of space in the quartermaster unit. The next unit is the evidence unit. There are currently over 85,000 items of evidence in that unit. Every one of them have to be stored. They have to be stored properly, and they have to sit there until the court that evidence is no longer needed by prosecutors or the defense in the court system. So that takes a while. We just get every day, every 24-hour cycle that passes, we have more and more added. It never stops. So how have we managed our space there? Before I go asking the chief, and then he stands up here asking you for money for storage space, a warehouse or something like that, the approach we've taken is, hey, let's manage within the confines of what we have right now. And what we found that is, of course, that we've been able to do that simply by having an annual evidence disposition that focuses on specific years rather than officers having to account for every bit of evidence they've done over 10 years that they've been here. They just focus on a particular year and let's knock that year out, that sort of approach. We purchased an incinerator with asset forfeiture funds, and that incinerator is now set up inside the loading dock area of the police department. The connections with natural gas and electricity have been made, but it's not up and running just yet. There's a few more things that have to be done, but once that happens, we're going to be able to destroy all of our drug evidence on site, and that's going to free up a lot of space there too, as well as paper documentation. So we're moving forward with that. There's confiscated money that we have in the police department, not the same thing as asset forfeiture, but confiscated money that's been taken from criminals as part of, and it's evidence in criminal investigations. It's money that could not be returned for whatever reason, and there's a wide myriad of reasons why that may be the case. But that money, for example, the council authorized us earlier this year to be able to use that money in conjunction with the trade-in of a couple of motorcycles, or 4 motorcycles, old ones, to purchase 2 brand new Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Well, that means the chief didn't have to come before you asking for more money to purchase those motorcycles, which were needed. That's one way that the evidence unit has been able to help. The fleet management unit, that's another unit inside the property and evidence division. And that unit, as you can envision, we've got somewhere south of 500 vehicles in the police department: cars, trucks, SUVs, ATVs, UTVs, and motorcycles. So all of those consume a lot of parking space. All of those are a lot better out there assigned to officers, and we're getting a lot more of those cars. We had a large volume of cars stacked up in the parking garage at the police department for the past few years because of the shortages. Those are cars that were not assigned. Now we're getting down to the wire before too long, and we'll see how that goes. But we've got 1 sworn officer in that unit. We're trying to convert that over to a civilian position. We've asked for that position, and it'll just be a matter of at some point the council will be able to work that into the budget in future years. But right now we've got a sworn officer. He manages the vehicle assignments and equipment to officers. He manages the equipment installation that we have to. If it's a marked car, they got to be painted. They got to have decals applied. They got to have a large volume of equipment installed. That takes time, takes logistical efforts and coordination. We've also got a digital video unit and staffed by 2 civilians in our police department, and they manage the hardware assignments, talking about the body video cameras, for example, and the dash cams, as people mostly call them. The benefit to the system that we have right now with GTAC, is the name of the manufacturer, it provides storage. That's the real big savings for us, is that they store this stuff and not us. We were having to store this stuff on external hard drives in large volumes at one point. But we're not doing that anymore. We're using their storage in the cloud. So they manage the external sources of video. You know, we got videos from maybe your home surveillance system where your car got broken into last night. You've got video of this having happened. We get a copy of that. That winds up becoming evidence. A convenience store has an armed robbery and has a surveillance system, same thing. They also had to respond to a lot of requests from investigators, open records requests, prosecutors looking for all these videos all the time. So they stay very busy doing that. The last unit in the Property and Evidence Division is the Firearms Examination Unit. This is a unit that really only came together this year, and it's as a result of council being able to provide funding through the ARP fund. It was about $357,000 for the NIBIN system. That particular system, the National Integrated Ballistics Identification Network, it enables firearms examiners to analyze ballistic evidence and develop leads that assist investigators in identifying suspects and clearing cases and so forth. It's been it doesn't solve the crime for you, but it's another tool in our belt. It's very helpful, and the investigators are very thrilled to have that at their disposal. And we're doing it in-house instead of having to rely upon ATF, which is where we were before, and that could be very long, the delays in that, because they're serving so many different agencies throughout the country. Now we're in a position of independence. We got some other equipment which came with that too, and we're still expecting that to arrive any day now. In fact, a comparison microscope that cost almost $90,000. Amazing that something costs that much, but it does. It's supposed to arrive tomorrow. The FY25 budget, the council approved a firearms examiner, and that person there'll be some real steady, deliberate thought put into that. When it's time to hire that person, we'll take a very careful approach to make sure we get the best and the right person for that position. The last division is the 911 center. Of course, they receive emergency calls through the 911 lines. They dispatch these calls. Some real quick numbers. If you look at year to date from January 1 up through Sunday night at midnight, 23 versus 24. Total number of calls received 23, just a little over 80,000. This year as a Sunday night, it was north of 100,000. So the call volume has gone up, 20,000 for whatever the reasons are. Of those 100,000 calls, in 23 we dispatched, the 911 center dispatched 61,000 to the police department. They dispatched 70, almost 80,000 to the police department this same time period this year. So our calls have gone up. The fire department, they caught almost 19,000 calls in 2023. They're over 20,000 calls now, same time period, same measuring the same time period. The current consoles we got, they were put in 2001. They're old. You've already provided funding from the mid-year budget adjustment. We just got the purchase order yesterday on that. We provided that to the vendor yesterday afternoon. We've already got logistical meetings set up, and we already had a lot of that done beforehand. We're developing a new CAD system under the Tyler Technology umbrella. That's also part of the RMS system as well, so that's ongoing right now. Council approved that. We developed a new training process. Deputy Chief Deaton developed a new training process for the dispatchers to simply get those new hires straight to the call taker position in 8 to 10 weeks, because that's what they're getting hired for, is to be a call taker. A police officer doesn't get hired to become a homicide investigator. He just needs to be able to respond to calls, so he or she can deal with that coming in the door. And also, just a quick note that council also approved the 911 director, and we're already, Chief's already working with us on developing what the standard's going to be, what the requirements are going to be, what kind of training and skills and so forth. So we'll move forward on that, and that'll also be a very deliberate approach to make sure we get the right person for that as well. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, last but not least, Deputy Chief that we have is Herman Miles. Herman, come up here, please. Hey, listen, the first couple of months I was here, I started talking to about 20 police officers, and they said, Chief, you seem like a nice guy, but we want Herman Miles to be our police chief. So I was thinking, I've got to meet this Herman Miles. So after I met him, it didn't take long to see why everybody loves him. But Herman Miles.
Hello to everyone. As he said, I'm Herman Miles. I'm the Deputy Chief of Professional Standards, the Office of Professional Standards, where we are responsible for making sure that the department maintain at high standards, maintain that trust within the community, and that our officer and employees are following our policies. In the Office of Professional Standards, there are 4 areas that we have, 4 units, which are internal investigations, open records, planning and research, and accreditation. A lot of times people hear about internal affairs, they think about something bad. That is why the name over the years has gone from internal affairs to Office of Professional Standards because they realize that we do more than just internal investigations. When we do internal investigations, they're assigned to us by the chief after he received complaints about officer misconduct, officer breaking policies, or even being accused of committing crimes. The Office of Professional Standards then, which is known as OPS, then thoroughly investigate the cases, and they do it impartially, and they take the time to do it completely. Once we do the investigation, if it is sustained, the punishment or discipline by the chief could be anything from corrected behavior up to termination. And in there, we also can do counseling, but all of that is left up to the chief on how we do that. In OPS, we also monitor 3 areas of the complaints we receive. Those are complaints, use of force, and vehicle pursuits. Since 2023, I would do a comparison from year-to-date from January 2023 to May of 2023, also for the same period in 2024. The amount of use of force that we received in 2023 was 24. This year, we, in the same period, have received only 12. In 2023, on vehicle pursuits, we had 8. This year so far, we only have 2. And complaints, in 2023, we had 8, and this year we only have 3. What I contribute to the reduction of these, especially with the complaints and use of force, is our increase in the officers that we have hired. On a lot of calls that we were going on, there were calls that were designated for 2 officers, and we were sending 1 officer probably to a domestic or any other situation where someone needed to be arrested, and that person had to make the arrest by themselves, and the suspect saw where I probably can fight the officer and get away, and that was causing a lot of the use of force. But now that we have the increase in officer, we're able to dispatch 2 officers to all 2 officer needed calls. In the vehicle pursuit area, Chief Mathis, when he came in, changed the policy that we had in place on that. The policy used to be that any arrestable offense, we could chase somebody for that. But he's changed it down to where we're only allowed to chase someone who is a forcible felon. And what that is someone who has done something that has hurted someone or the threat of hurting someone are the people that we're chasing now. And since that has come into play, like I say, we only received 2 vehicle pursuits. Other area that we are very happy to report about is our accreditation standards. We have been an accredited police department since 1993, and since that time, we have never failed an inspection, be it on-site or digital. As a matter of fact, we're in the process now preparing for an on-site inspection by CALEA in the fall of this year. Of 18,000 agencies in the United States, we are one of only 750 that is accredited. And in the state of Georgia, we are only one of 50 agencies in the state of Georgia that is accredited. And we also have a accreditation also under the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police. And in the state, we're only one of the 776 agencies in the state. We're only one of 100 and something who are accredited within the state. Our offices consist of 4 sergeants, a lieutenant, 2 civilians who do our open record requests, and administrative assistant. On our, on year-to-date on our open record request, we have had over 2,700. Last year, we had a total of 2,600 requests. And sometimes from the chief, there are special assignments that I get from him, special out-of-the-box assignments that he gives me to do, like researching something for him. And here in May, he had me to plan a walkthrough of Luther P. Wilson Apartments, which we know as Wilson Apartment. And what we did during that walkthrough was, we walked through and we met the residents there. We introduced ourselves to them, find out if they had any issues with the police officers, anything that had been done. And we also passed out to them information, literature on car seats, infant sleeping, and we also had coloring books and crayons to the kids. And it was really a great time that we had with meeting the resident of the complex. We're planning on doing more of those throughout this year. I don't know when the next one is going to be, but that is something out of the box that we're trying to do also, and that assignment came through the Office of Professional Standard. We appreciate you all giving us the opportunity to come before you today, and we say thanks to everything that you do to support us. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I've only made 2 promotions to my command staff since I've been here, and one was Lieutenant Al Malone, the other was Chief Miles. So I think they were 2 good promotions. All right. Next, I'd like Chief Deputy Kennedy to come up here, please. Over the last, she's going to tell you what she's been doing, but I would just like to publicly tell you how much I have appreciated her, especially over the last few months. She's taken a lot of administrative duties off my plate that gives me time to do the things that I'm good at, and that's managed by walking around. And she's alleviated a lot of this sitting in the office stuff for me, so I don't have to do that. So I appreciate you, ma'am.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name, again, is Deborah Kennedy. I'm one of the assistant chiefs at the police department. And the topics I'm going to discuss today are, first, unsheltered and sheltered homeless population, Northwestern University School of Police Staffing Command, and then the implementation of a police foundation. To start off with, just to give you definitions of what unsheltered and sheltered means. An unsheltered homeless person is someone that resides in a place that's not meant for human habitation. So somewhere like a car, parks, abandoned buildings, the street. A sheltered homeless person is someone that resides in an emergency shelter, or someone that resides in a transitional housing or supportive housing. And typically those individuals in those type of housing settings come from emergency shelters. Because I read body language for a living, I'm not going to go over the process that I had to go over. But I will tell you, if you want to know the process that we use, I can talk to you about that process individually. But what I do want to tell you about the process that we use dealing with encampments is we use a team approach. And the people that are on that team, I would like to tell you who those people are. So we use Pat Frey with Home for Good, Ryan Pruitt with Inspections and Codes, Drill Short with Public Works, and then myself and then our staff at the police department. And we really do collaborate very good together. We work together, we support one another, and we truly have a team approach when we're dealing with encampments. What I would like to say is that we have an Uptown liaison that we've had in place for 5 or 6 years. That individual typically meets with someone for Home for Good probably 2 to 3 times a week, on average 2 to 3 times a week, dealing with complaints and issues surrounding homelessness. And so we can collaborate together and work together on those issues and complaints. And then probably twice a month, someone from the complaint detail that's typically made up of different officers throughout the department, they also meet with someone for Home for Good to assist them with whatever they need assistance with dealing with the homeless population and complaints that come in. I do want to share some of the numbers that I got with the count comparison for Home for Good, just to very, very quickly share a snapshot of the numbers between 2023 and 2024. So in 2023, the total number of homeless individuals that were counted was 274. Of those, 36 were children, and I think that's important for us to realize, for us to know. 36 children in Columbus, Georgia were reported as homeless in 2023. Going back to those definitions, 205 were sheltered, and then 69 were unsheltered. Similarly, in 2024, 272 were counted as homeless, but 54 children were counted as homeless. So you can see the difference between 2023 and 2024 dealing with children and homelessness. So we have children in our community experiencing homelessness. 220 of those were sheltered, and then 52 were unsheltered. And the only thing I want to do is just for the sake of time, and before I move to the next topics, is just to say this. You don't need a PhD or even a bachelor's degree if you've worked in law enforcement for any length of time in any community that deals with homelessness. Until we get to the root of the problem, which is the mental health crisis and addiction crisis, we are going to have a revolving door with that. Any police officer that deals with that, and if they're being true and honest with themselves, they will tell you that is the root of the majority of the problems that we see, whether it be in Columbus or any other city that experiences that. So I do want to point that out. So our efforts need to really focus in those areas, the mental health crisis and the addiction crisis. Moving to my next topic, just briefly, very briefly talking about Northwestern School of Police Staff and Command. So there's three executive level or top executive level leadership institutes in the United States. You have the FBI Academy, the FBI National Academy in Quantico. You have Southern Police Institute in Louisville, and then you have Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command out of Evanston, Illinois, which is near Chicago. For the last 2 years, Northwestern University has had a satellite campus in Atlanta, and they've offered that class to those of us living in this area. And I was privileged to be able to attend that from January of 2024 till May of 2024. That particular program is an intensive 10-week program. It's stretched out over 5 months. So I went to school for 2 weeks, and then I came back here for 2 weeks. I will tell you that program it's intellectually challenging. There's a lot of work that is encompassed during those 5 months, but it prepares experienced law enforcement officers for success. And the way they do that is they focus on developing tomorrow's leaders while teaching topics such as budgeting, staff studies, resource allocation, management, and leadership. And I'm happy to announce that I graduated May 24, 2024 from that program. And I'm very thankful for that opportunity. And I'll just say that there's no doubt the information that I obtained during that 5 months will be invaluable for sure. And then finally, to finish up, during that class, I had to do a staff study for 5 months. And I chose to do the staff study on the implementation of a police foundation. When I came back, I had to present that to the chief, and the chief signed off for me to begin having conversations about that staff study, which was the implementation of a police foundation. And so we're at the very beginning stages. The stage right now is just having the conversation, so that's why I'm here today to present to you the idea and the thought of having a police foundation that supports the Columbus Police Department in various ways. My push would be to have a heavy or a narrowing focus dealing with crime prevention and crime reduction. So I tried to rush through my presentation as quick as I could, and I just want to tell you guys, again, I know everybody has said it, genuinely thank you for the job that you do, for supporting law enforcement, members of council, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. City Manager. I can tell you from being in this class, not everybody has the support that we have of their council and commissioners and then the people that are sitting in your seats. I know that from hearing my colleagues in class tell me some of the battles that they were battling, and it's good to feel supported and for our officers to know that you guys support them. So thank you, genuinely thank you.
Assistant Chief, thank you for attending that class. Congratulations on graduating. That is not an easy thing to do from what I'm told. But the other thing, the two areas that you focused on, I think are critical for our community right now. So looking forward to hearing the next steps on the foundation piece.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Listen, that's, we got one more assistant chief to hear from, and then we'll be finished. So I know everybody's getting tired and probably hungry, but Assistant Chief, could you come up, please? This is Assistant Chief Deb Fitzpatrick, and she's over what they call the administrative side of it, but it's operations as well. So she was over the 911 center as an assistant chief for 3 years. So when we have some dire issues with our 911 center, who best to send her down there and personally look it over? Ma'am?
Good afternoon. I was assigned to 911 November 13th of 2023 to fix some situations down there, and I'll just be brief on what I did in that length of time up until today. So what you have is what I was doing when I was assigned was November the 13th, and I had to adjust my hours to work hands-on with the people, sat down there with them, sat at the radios to comprehend what they were doing. On my focus project, I sent the chief a brief description of what, thank you. I sent the chief a brief description of what I was going to do for the next 90 days, and I've done that in Excel past those 90 days. So just to take you through a walkthrough of what we did. Implemented changes to improve operations, secured the buy-in from the team, and that's what you have to do. It is not about brick and mortar, it's about people. And the people down there are the people who you talk to first when you dial 911. Also, I collaborated closely with the then deputy chief at the time, the current captain, and the previous lieutenants and 2 sergeants. I held meetings each day, sometimes twice a day. I typically get to work about 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning to meet with the team who's getting off and to also meet with the team who's coming on. I do that not because I'm told. I've been doing that for the last 4 years. Also, established and streamlined the interview process, which I'm not going to go into that. That task has been given to, y'all heard the presentation from Deputy Chief Graham. He's doing all of that now. So I'm not involved with that. I did conduct a comprehensive survey, and this was to see how we were doing as leaders, the leaders who were over 911. I also implemented the leaders in the police department as well. I engaged in a critical self-assessment for supervisors as leaders to enhance the effectiveness of changes. Organize these meetings to analyze the results and foster open discussions. And those discussions were hard. We had to talk to people who had not been given a voice and to make some changes down there, and I think that went well. Also, collaborated with the team on recruitment, and I'm not going to go into that because that's what we started doing, but that task has been given over to Deputy Chief Graham. We're actively revising and enhancing the standard operation procedures for 911. When I started down there, we had 20 vacant positions. We filled 18 of those as of last month, but as you have heard, we have reoccurring doors that open and close, and people quit, or people realize that this is not the 911 that they see on TV. Okay? As of today, 6/11/911, we're not fully staffed, but we have 52 of those positions filled out of 54. So this PowerPoint was done a few days ago, so at that time we were fully staffed. Also, we did a 30 to 60-day evaluation, assessment, and evaluation. We consulted with the teams to strategize. We went on a hiring campaign, which you've already heard about. In that time, we implemented a uniform for the 911 team. Believe it or not, they wanted baseball caps. So we got baseball caps, and they have shirts, and they wear their baseball caps. During this time also, well, it started last year in August, I've been working on the fallen officer for a line of duty death for Officer Robert Curse for the national recognition, and that's been an ongoing task for almost a year now. Also, 911 Center, today, this is what we are currently staffed. We have 3 trainers. We have Group A, B, C, and D, and you can see from that what they're doing today. And we have 2 openings as of today, and they interviewed 2 candidates this morning. I got a text this morning saying that they liked the 2 that they interviewed, so we're probably going to move on forward with them on hiring them. So that will leave us 1 opening. These are the people that I want to really stress and reiterate who does the job for 911. Not me, not any other person. These are the people who go to work every day. They go to our job fairs. They do all of the work. They train. They're on that radio. They're coming in early. They stay late. And I could not do this job without this team right here. I would be remiss if I did not. This is some of the things that we have done. They also celebrate us. Our 911 team celebrate us as well. They'll call us down, and they'll fix lunch for us, and we'll go down. Myself and Assistant Chief Kennedy went down last year and just had lunch with them because I took over from her. She set the standard, so I just kind of followed. This is another set of pictures that we have with some of our team members working, and they're still doing a great job down there. This was something that our current lieutenant implemented this year. We had a 911 Appreciation Week back in April, and I sent you all, the city council, an invitation to just kind of give them some love. I remember last year we did this. I know several of y'all sent down pizzas and just little foods and gifts to give them some encouragement for 911 Appreciation Week. But one of our lieutenants at the time, he bought these coins. We all chipped in, and I'll tell you what it says on there later because it's a lot to read. But this is what we gave to our employees, a challenge coin, because the police officers have challenge coins, but the 911 emergency officers did not. So he created this, and this was a proud moment for us. We gave it to them in their little packets for Employee Appreciation Week. As of last year, we did a comparison and analysis. May of 2023, these were the amount of calls we had was 2,000, self-initiated calls. And then dispatch costs was 16,676. And this year, to date, as of last month, we've had 21,112 calls. That's 4,436 more calls per volume. So you see the uptick in the calls that we're having as compared to last year. I want to talk about the mental health piece. A few years ago, I went to a GACP, a Georgia Association of Chief of Police Conference, and I talked with some people who had a mental health co-responder. And that mental health co-responder responds to calls with the police officers because a lot of our calls are mental health and not criminal. And you do not put people in jail because they're having a mental health crisis. What we have done in connection with New Horizon and Behavior Health is that they have hired a co-responder. She's on loan to the Columbus Police Department. I also put it in our budget that I wanted 4 more because we have spread this lady thin. But we did get, and thank you, we did get permission in the budget to hire 1 more person to respond for our mental health. Also, in addition to this is just showing you what we've done in the last year. 2022 to 2023, we've answered 231 calls for mental health crisis. And year to date, we've had 142 calls. And that's just for May of this year. So she's constantly answering calls. And if she's not on duty, I will send her a call that we've had from the 911 center, and she will follow up on that call as well. We've had, believe it or not, we have people inside our building who have mental health crisis. We're human, and sometimes we need help. So every month, I send out an inspiration for mental health to encourage our officers to seek help because we do have vicarious trauma from the calls that we attend and the calls that we have to service. I want to play this video, if you can.
Columbus 911, what is the location of your emergency?
I have been employed at Columbus Police Department for 33 years. I like working at the Columbus Police Department 911. I like to help people. It's a way to give back to the community and save lives.
My job is important because I'm the first of contact when a citizen calls asking for help. We dispatch whether they need police, fire, or EMS to try to get them the fastest service to help them as possible. And then we turn around and make sure that all the units go home safely.
One thing we have to realize is that it's not like the TV show. You know, there are certain pieces of information that we have to get so that we make sure that we send the appropriate resources.
We have to pay attention to our radios. We have to multitask.
make sure we copy the information that they're giving us and copy it accurately. But like I couldn't imagine looking someone's family member in the face because I was slacking my job. So it's all about paying attention, staying on task, and making sure that they go home at night.
And due to the situations, the stress that some of the callers are in, really makes it surreal for us on the other end and to feel helpless not being able to help them other than dispatching someone to them.
This job is about helping people, and we're behind the scenes. And our main goal when we come in and we dispatch is to make sure that the officers and the firefighters and the EMTs go home to their families.
We're still hiring.
Columbus 911, what is the location of your emergency?
I have been employed.
So, in closing, I want to read you something. Between the thin red line, the thin blue line, and the thin white line lies the thin gold line. This narrowest of the lines represent those who are rarely seen, but always heard and appreciated. The calm voice in the dark, the heroes behind the scene, and the gold link that holds it all together are your dispatchers. And I would be remiss if I did not mention them by name. Our trainers, Granat, Alice, Zach, Karen. Our supervisors who work 12-hour shifts to make sure that your calls are answered are Tracy, Carla, Christina, and Shari. Those are my heroes. Those are the people that I have to go to and listen to every day to make sure that I'm doing my job and to make sure that they are appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Chief. And I tell you, I've gone to, I try to go to as many as I can of the Employee of the Month, and some of the stories that are told by the folks there at the 911 center, I mean, those are the first responders. If they don't get it right, and if they don't get it solid, then the folks that are responding can actually be in danger, and so can the people on the other end that need help. So, great job. Chief?
Thank you, Chief. Well, that's the conclusion of the presentation. I know it was long. We had a whole year of information that you heard, and you heard it from the people that actually do the work. I just consider myself a cheerleader, and my job is to support them and what they're trying to do. And I just wanted to let them present to you so you could hear from my heroes. Thank you. Any questions?
Councilor Thomas?
I guess what I want to say is I hope that the people who are watching this understand now why we think we've got the best police department in the whole state, country, world, whatever. But you guys are doing a terrific job, and it's really good to put a face with a name sometimes. And just, thank you so much for what you do for us, and you do it day after day after day after day. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councilor Huff?
Chief, great job. Great job to everyone that presented. My question is, as far as experience, what's our average, if you know right away, of experience in the categories of dispatch, police officers, administration, and so forth?
Well, when I first got here, we had about 30 dispatchers, so it was down 30 dispatchers. So we probably hired 30 in the last year. So the experience is, I don't know the experience of the 30 that was there, but we do have 30 that have less than a year experience right now.
Because I saw one face, I think she's been there quite a while.
Yeah, we have a handful that's been there a long time. Granada's one of them. She's been there, I think she said 30 years, so she's been there for a while.
Yeah, I had the experience before I was elected to visit with a child that was playing with 911, and some kids were playing around. So I took them down to meet with the person I saw in the picture to explain to them how important it was and what they could be harming someone else's time because it's, playing on the phone. Someone would really need 911 at that time. So that was taken care of, and that person went on from age 12 to, they're probably about 35 or 40 years old now, but they're not playing on the phone anymore. Now I was just wondering, because we have I see a lot of people I've seen over the years. I was just wondering if we had like, an average of 20, 25 years in there between the officers and dispatch and so forth.
The average officer, and Roderick could probably tell me because he tells each time we have people graduate the academy, the average goes down.
Right.
But the average officer out on the street probably is less than 2 years.
Okay.
So, and that's why I think we're just about full of the allotted positions. And I know that you've basically approved that when I come back before you, that you could grant me to open up some of our frozen positions. But I'm going to hold off on that for just a little while because we're in a huge training push right now to make sure that some of the new officers, although they're not a lot of experience, we'll get them the best training that we can get them.
And from the presentations I saw today, I assume we're going to do more community policing to get people out among the people.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the future. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Councilor Begley?
Before you took this job, when I'd hear complaints, I would tell people, it's really hard to do those things you want when you're 100 officers short. And I was very excited when you joined. I never expected you to fill all those open positions so quickly. I know that is a lot of work recruiting that many people in such a short time, and improving the retention so that you can improve the overall number. And so, like I said, it exceeded all my expectations. I had great expectations, but they've been exceeded. And so I'm very proud that you are running the force and have got us to a fully staffed model. And I think we're going to see the results. We're already seeing the results, but we'll continue to see the results of that fully staffed model as we move forward.
Thank you, sir.
I can make one more comment. I know Assistant Chief Den Fitzpatrick mentioned Officer Curse, and I think that dedication ceremony is going to be Thursday at 1:30 at the Public Safety Building. And it's a gentleman that was inadvertently left off of when he passed, he was on duty, and it was left off, so they're going to correct that and honor his family. So anybody that wants to attend, I don't think they'd mind if he showed up. All right, Chief, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, that concludes my agenda.
Okay. Madam Clerk, give him just a few moments.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and councilors. For the clerk's agenda, item 1 is a resolution excusing Councilor Tucker from today's meeting.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Item number 2, this is an honorary designation application that was submitted by, this would be to forward it to the Board of Honor.
And there's a motion and second, but I know that Parks and Rec had indicated just recently that if council was willing to delay maybe just a week, let them give you some input from their department with regards to the naming, since it's a little bit different than what's normally been done. But that's up to the pleasure of council. That was requested by the Parks and Rec Department. Yes, just so they can provide some input to council. All right, no substitute motion, so there's a motion to approve and pass it on to the Board of Honor, and a second. So all in favor say aye. Oh, hang on, I'm sorry, Councilor Thomas.
There will be a celebration of life for Miss Joni Restmeyer on the 27th of this month, and so we're hoping that we'll move this process as quickly as possible, so perhaps they can reference that on the 27th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Did we get that vote tallied?
Sir?
That vote was tallied?
Yes.
Unanimous? Okay.
Yes. Item number 3 are minutes of various boards.
Motion second, receive the minutes. All in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Next, we have board appointments. We have council district seat appointments. We have the Youth Advisory Council. We have outlined districts 2, 4, 5, and 8, and Councilor Garrett is nominating Lauren Robinson for his representative on this council. She may be confirmed.
Motion second to confirm. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Next, we have council appointments. Any nominations will be listed for the next meeting. We have the Columbus Aquatics Commission. We have outlined 4 seats that are open for nominations. For the Keep Columbus Beautiful Commission, we have David Hauser. We're still making contact with him to see if he is interested in serving another term. We also have Pamela Green Thomas, who's interested in serving, and the seat of Eddie Florence, he had resigned. Councilor Crabb is nominating Pamela Green Thomas to serve another term. However, the request is that she would serve in the seat that's currently held by Eddie Florence as the Senatorial District 15 representative. And Councilor Crabb is also nominating Lisa Hastings for the at-large representative seat that would be vacated by Pamela Green Thomas with this move. And we will bring this back for confirmation. For the Region 6 Regional Advisory Council for the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, we have the seat of Christopher Posey. He does not desire reappointment, and so this seat is open for nominations. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, we had a request to go into executive session to discuss litigation, personnel, and real estate acquisition and or disposal. So just those two, potential litigation and real estate?
In litigation,
Okay,
we did have, we did, yeah.
all
I
right.
didn't hear a second, Mr. Mayor.
All right, there is a motion and second. I
Thank
got
you.
you coming up. I forgot about you. Thank you. Before we go in, that's all right. Before we go into executive session, we'll let Ms. Elamine come up for her 3 minutes. Ms. Elamine.
Deputy Clerk, could you help me with the heavy lifting? I want you, didn't I? Thank you. Oh. Mr. Mayor, before I start, the main item I had listed to speak on, it was somehow removed from the agenda. Could I still speak on June 18th?
Yes.
Yes, I'd have to
Yeah,
defer to the
it's-
clerk.
it's
She
an
keeps track of it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
On June 18th at 2822 Shaw Street, we'll celebrate Juneteenth and the 25th anniversary of the Southern Anti-Racism Network. Those are some books left over from our 2019 20th anniversary. And Mr. Bruce Huff, we'll be repeating your ad in the 25th anniversary. We'll get a nice color ad. And as you can see, Mr. Mayor, your proclamation from 5 years ago is also there, along with my friend, the Mayor of Durham, Steve Schul at the time, served just 1 term, but his proclamation is also there. Mr. Mayor, you didn't turn the time on. You just gonna give me all the time I need?
No, I would love to, but no, I'm not.
Well.
But you got a few more
Okay,
seconds than you
Mr.
would.
Mayor. 2822 Shaw Street is a house that was built in 1945. It's an old house that's seen some hard times. The defendant that lived there and still gets his mail from the Superior Court shot up the place or brought people to shoot up the place. So I just want to say that since January of this year, we're reclaiming 2822 Charles Street as a Freedom House, as a community unity house, free from bad behavior and free from criminal activity. When you come to the house at 6 o'clock on June 18th, you'll see a lot of bullet holes, a lot of bullet holes. But I got some of that bullet hole stuff replaced. We want to celebrate Juneteenth in the spirit of community unity. At 2822 Charles Street, where some bad things went on. But you're gonna be in the yard under a big wedding tent. We got it set up for 60 people. Ed's Southern Cooking, I hear you eat that too. My favorite place. We set it up for 60 people. And if you've eaten at Ed's Southern Cooking, you know the portions are generous. So come hungry. Everybody receiving these booklets is invited. I gotta fill the 60 seat. I've already promised to pay Ed's Southern Cooking, so that's done. You'll get an envelope when you come, and if you want to give a donation, great. But come and enjoy Juneteenth and the 25th anniversary of the Southern Anti-Racism Network. The group picture we take is gonna be on the cover of the 25th anniversary. So please come, Mr. Mayor. Want you to be there.
Thank you.
Everybody elected to serve that district. And if you buy an ad, 4-page ad, 4 seats, your family is covered, Mr. City Manager, because your beautiful wife already got her full-page ad. So we are gonna have a good time. Jazz from the Columbus Jazz Society. Come on out. June 18th, 6 p.m., 2822 Charles Street. I got ADT, so I ain't scared to say my address. I do have ADT and the doorbell camera. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Elmaine.
We're reclaiming 2822 Charles.
Ms. Barnes or Mr. Barnes, did y'all?
Be here the whole 3 minutes, but I just wanted to say that you all know never make a Barnes angry. I'm sure many of you have seen my dad get angry and been cussed out by my dad. So I just wanted to let you know that I will be here at every council meeting for the next 2 years, holding you all accountable. I like to see how those votes go, because I know why you appointed your boy. So I just wanted to let y'all know. I know y'all prefer Lyron Hickey, but he lied on my dad to get his seat. And I will hold all 6 of you accountable politically. Have a great day.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Oh, Mr. Barnes, hang on just a second. Let me get you back to.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Claremont Barnes. Thank you for the additional 3 minutes. What my sister said is more than 100% true. My father could be, he'll let you know how he feels. I'll put it that way. And I think we have let everyone here know how we feel, especially those who totally disregarded what my father would have wanted. And you totally gave away his seat to someone who he would not want to have his seat. Don't know why you did that, why you played into lies. I don't know. But there's always a reckoning. All right, so there's always a reckoning. My sister, just in the past couple of days, she has been speaking with the neighbors, just as my dad did, grassroots, which I'm sure a few of you have gotten out in your neighborhood to knock on doors. No one? Bueller? Okay. Over 100 signatures already, just in the past couple of days, speaking with the constituents, those who want her to continue my father's legacy, those who you totally disregard, that you don't care about. They're not in your district. You don't care. You didn't care who you gave the seat to. Because if you really did, if you really cared about the people, not only in District 1, but in Columbus, because my father not only followed the boundaries of his district, people from Alabama, those throughout the state, those in other states, because he was a member of several multi-state boards, were positively impacted by the actions that my father took to help people. Because that's what he did, he helped people. And if you are against helping people, which evidently 6 of you are, then I pity you, I truly do, because the people who voted you in office, they do not deserve you. They do not. And I look forward to, from where I work up in, I live in Virginia, work in DC, I follow the politics, I see everything on YouTube, I follow these live presentations, and I look forward to watching you squirm, watching you lose your seat, lose your power that you have because of your lies and deceit and your corruption. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, we are in executive session. All right, we are back in regular session. We were in executive session to discuss personnel, real estate, litigation, and potential litigation. We did not take any votes while in executive session. Mr. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. This item was discussed in executive session. Call up a resolution to settle all claims of Angel King stemming from an accident June 15th, 2023 for $100,000. It's ready for adoption.
Motion second to, I'm sorry, we need, so we got.
No, you can't vote.
We got a motion by Counselor Thomas and then a second by Counselor Hupp.
And we've got Counselor Garrett recusing, so we need to get 6 affirmative votes.
We got it.
Okay.
All right. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, that's
That
approved.
passes.
All right, I'll now entertain a motion to go out to adjourn. All right, motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned.